Hello, Lund loyalists. John Lund Unleashed YouTubers, those watching on X and Instagram and listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure you subscribe, like, and turn on your alerts so you never miss a show. And for all things Unleashed, go to johnlundunleashed.com. Live shows, archives, the blog, social media, links, and more. Now likely nursing a hangover. Unshaven, unshowered, and a 50-50 chance of his teeth being brushed. Here's Johnny. Here's Johnny.
It'd be nice if I got myself on stage. Hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. What is today? Wednesday already? My gosh, when you have a short week, all of a sudden it sneaks up on you. It's Wednesday edition of the show. That is episode 66. Episode 66. It's John Lund Unleashed. Thanks for joining us. We're on YouTube. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Please make sure you subscribe. And keep your alerts on and give us the thumbs up, which helps the algorithm, I'm told. So make sure that you do that as well. If you're listening on or watching, I should say, on X or Instagram, thank you very much. I will check in with you periodically. But if you want to hang out with the show in full effect, we have a great chat room that people have a lot of fun in. And you don't have to chat or anything like that, but just come hang out, which you join, you become a loyalist, you do all these kind of things. We have a great time. It's John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, X, and Instagram this morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific, whenever we're needed throughout the day. Breaking news, big stories for everything Unleashed. Please, please, please go to johnlundunleashed.com and you can watch the show live from there. Archives of shows, podcast, Apple, Spotify, you can get it there. Blogs, which we update every day, every couple of days, all the social media links, all those things at johnlundunleashed.com. But first and foremost, good morning, good morning, good morning. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. We will read the chalkboard, which is rather short today, the chalkboard. Usually there's probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 more things on there, but the things we have are meaty and we'll talk about them for a long time. So we go through the chalkboard. You can click on the QR code there. That'll take you to johnlundunleashed.com on your phone. And we've got a roll call to do because if you're in the chat room, I love to say hello to everybody because we got a great chat room. Everybody hangs out. You can have differing opinions. No hate, no vitriol. It's just sports. It's all we're talking about. We're having a lot of fun doing it. So if you want to go into the chat room and say hello to everybody, hello, hello, hello to everybody. Daniel is here. Tacky, Vernon, Enrique, Gizmo. Good morning to Joy. AJ Cruz 75. Danny is here. Good morning, Lund and crew. Bucko Sports says we here. Sports fan, Bucko is already starting something. He's got David Lee Roth greater than Sammy Hagar just right out of the gate. Daniel is here. Hello, Franco. Hello, Lund. Skills report is accounted for. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming into the chat room today, making time for us and John Lund Unleashed. So there you go. Everybody is here. Please make sure that you hang out in the chat room and questions, comments. That's where the random comes in at the bottom. I go into tangents, talk, and then I look over the chat room to check in to see how everybody's doing, thoughts, questions, comments, and then it sends me into random things, which is why Bucko Sports is probably already starting a Sammy Hagar versus David Lee Roth thing going on. So welcome, welcome, welcome. A lot of great stuff for you, as we always have. So episode 66 is Vlad's story. Vlad tweets Durant non-trade. He explains to Malika Andrews why he didn't want to come to the Golden State Warriors. Interesting. Dre title talk. We saved this. This was from All-Star Weekend because he was talking all about the All-Star game, which we've done over the last couple of days. But Dre title talk is what we'll talk about. Are the Warriors actually contenders? NFL free agent class. So right before the show, I put in all these slides and videos and different things. And I started putting in a bunch of free agency slides. And I thought, this is just way too much. So we're going to go through, because everybody gets obsessed with the draft. And I am too. And Underwear Olympics are coming up in a week or two, whatever the case may be, in Indianapolis. And I'll be right there, front row. And my wife will be looking at me like, it's one thing to watch the game, but are you really watching these guys run around and obsessing over 40 times? And I try to explain to her, it's like, it's male sub opera. It's really cool. And if he runs a 4.2, he's going to get more money. And then she's just like, don't care. Like, I'll watch the Super Bowl and big games. And she loves the Niners. And she's like, I am drawing the line at the NFL scouting college. Like that, no. She's like, you can do that. Just go out to the studio, do it on your own. Don't bother us with it, whatever. And so, yeah, man, I understand why that is. So anyway, so before all of that fun of NFL draft talk, we forget that there's all of this free agency, and the reason why they do it is because the NFL Players Union are like, we don't want a bunch of young guys taking our jobs beforehand. Like, we sign free agent contracts, then we're set for the year, and then whatever, the rookies come in. But if it was reversed the other way, then the rookies would come in, the free agents would never get contracts, and they'd be screwed, and the Players Union don't like that. That's why free agency is first, and we really haven't discussed it. But you do know what my philosophy on free agency is, which is most of these players are flawed. And so all these teams at the top every single year who have all the money, they drafted, they didn't develop, they didn't re-sign. That's why they have all the money. You want to draft, develop, re-sign, and not be players in free agency, not major players in free agency. And the Niners are kind of in the middle of that. So we're going to go through some of the players in free agency, not nauseatingly long, just, a little bit of fun to just tell you this, or to just kind of get you through and go through, kind of so you have a basic understanding of who's out there. And I got to be honest, in going through the top 101 free agents, and this is just one entity's list, but they're roughly the same. It's not a great free agent class, but it's a decent free agent class for what the 49ers need, which is interior defensive line help, could use an edge, could use, obviously, interior offensive line help, specifically at center and left guard. So there's some guys who fit that role, but there's a lot of teams looking for that, which means the money gets pushed up, which means you got a bad contract on your books. In like a year or two, you're going to go, why did we sign this free agent guy? Why didn't we just draft somebody and they were cheap labor for a long time? That's how free agency goes. All right, so with that out of the way, it is tremendous to talk to, as I always say. Let me start with the Vlad story. So this took off yesterday. Let me share my computer with you because I'm going to start with a tweet that I think it was Front Office Sports put out. And then I made a comment on it, and then it just went crazy. And part of the reason it went crazy was because there were two, at least, and then I think it went viral nationally, but there was at least two fan bases involved because a good friend of mine, his name is Ian Furness, is awesome. So if you're watching from Seattle, maybe for the first time, thank you. Please make sure you join the channel, John Lund Unleashed. So I had seen this earlier in the day, and I know that Giants fans were angry about it. And Mariner fans are kind of in the same boat, and we're talking about Vlad Guerrero. There's not a team that could use Vladimir Guerrero more than the Mariners. They have the best starting staff in baseball, or at least did last year. And they need offense every which way. And they've got money too. I mean, they're not a small market. They're not a major market. I think they're market like 12. Whereas again, I say this all the time, the Giants are 4. So I got into this tangent mainly because of San Francisco, but then I also, let me just pull up X here and my tweet. And let me just start with that. So it was two fan bases coming together with vitriol and anger. And it was the Giants and the Mariners who are in kind of the same boat. I am not a Scott Boras fan. I got accused by a bunch of people of being a Scott Boras fan, but in Front Office Sports, and we understand Scott Boras, what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to make a market, kick up a market, make the market better, make the market bigger, make the money more for his agents or for his players. That's what he does. And he is, of course, Vladimir Guerrero's agent. Yesterday, Vladimir Guerrero said no to the Blue Jays. I'll explain where we are on all this and what it means, and maybe the Giants or the Mariners or whoever can get involved in it. But Front Office Sports says agent Scott Boras is calling out Major League Baseball owners as Vlad Guerrero faces free agency after turning down an offer from the Blue Jays. Quote, it's not small market, large market, and how much of your revenues are you spending on a 40-man roster to show your fans you're committed, quote unquote, from Scott Boras. Not a Scott Boras fan. I understand what he does for a living. He's very good at it, period. So then I say, for once, Boras is right. Giants spend 49.1% of their $443 million of revenue on payroll. Dodgers spend 71.5% of their $549 million on payroll. So I hate the Dodgers all you want. They're spending over 70%. The Giants are spending less than 50%. And when people come to me, and I don't want to make every day all about money and off the field and politics of sports and finances of sports and free agency, because that's not fun. Because we're supposed to be the toy box here. We're supposed to have fun, and we're not supposed to talk about money, and let's just talk about sports. But because this thing came up, I just want to explain how this Vladimir Guerrero thing works, because I thought a lot of us understand it, and then I was surprised by how many people just don't. But anyway, what I'm saying is it is apples to apples, because a lot of people said, well, the Dodgers have more money. When you say what percentage are you spending, it doesn't matter. about money. So we could be talking about the A's. What percentage of the income, all right, what of the revenue that they're receiving, each team, what are they spending on money and for one on the payroll? And for once, I agree with Boras. That's apples to apples. It doesn't matter how much you have. It's what percentage are you spending on it. So I question the Giants all the time in their commitment to winning. And there's this perception among some fans that owners are going balls out to win. And I've told you this again and again and again. For the majority, not all of them, and this is why the owners who really want to win stick out. And people get mad at them because it's like, why aren't you doing what the other owners are doing? Most, not all, but most owners in sports treat their business of owning a team like their other 50 or 100 or 200 businesses they own. Is it profitable? And if it's not, they skew a little bit. But like Tom Ricketts, for example, owns the Cubs. They own Marquee Network. The Cubs are rolling in money, maybe not to the level of the Dodgers or the Yankees, but they have their own network in the third largest market in the country. And the White Sox are a non-entity. The Cubs are rolling in it. And yet they're middle of the pack as far as payroll in Major League Baseball. They made a trade for Kyle Tucker. I doubt they re-signed him, even though there's nothing holding them back. But the Giants are in the same boat as that. There's teams in the middle. The Red Sox, they just got Bregman because they understand now, we can put, we can defer some of this money, which is a brilliant thing that I've talked about if you go to johnlundunleashed.com. But I don't want to get too deep into the money. But my point is, and then everybody got really mad at me about this whole thing about Vlad Guerrero and they're tampering and he's not a free agent. And what are you talking about? And you're crazy and all this kind of stuff. So so that's the tweet. That's what kind of got me going on the whole thing. Money, finances, blah, 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 things that we find boring. And then people got really angry and said, well, he's not a free agent and they're tampering. Well, this is what started, of course, Run Off of Sports. But then MLB.com, the website of the sport, all right, in a Vlad Jr. free agency frenzy, who are the most likely suitors and front runners? They wrote that yesterday. Why did they write that? He's not a free agent, as you tell me. He's not. That's tampering if you start talking about it or teams look about it or do this, that, and the other. Tampering happens 24/7, 365 in every single sport. Tampering, heavy petting, whatever it is you want to talk about. Tampering is a one player calling another player. You don't think anybody called Vlad Jr. yesterday? Tampering is talking off the record to somebody. Tampering is all these. They do it all the time. It's talked about all the time. Do you think that a team, let's just use the Giants, for example. Do you think that they don't have a plan for a year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years down the line? Of course they do. They already have finances, who they're going to go after, who's going to be a free agent. They already know these things. Okay, guys, it's now free agency. Go talk to the players. If that's how you operated in professional sports, that when it was time for free agency, that's the time that you started to make contact on a certain player, you would be fired so fast it'd make your head spin. These guys are constantly talking to guys. Players are recruiting guys. Teams are talking to agents. Agents like Scott Boras are leaking things. They get leaked through insiders who are glad to comply in return for getting stories, breaking stories, etc. And then agents like him, and this is where most things start in every sport. Agents go to the Adam Schefters and Jeff Passons and etc. and Shams of the world, and they say, okay, I'll give you this. It's this give and take thing that's going on, because what Scott Boras is trying to do is he's trying to widen this market. So that piece that I just showed you, what do you think were the teams that are interested in Vlad? The Yankees, the Mets. Now, not the Dodgers. They have Freddie Freeman, but they might be. Or the Red Sox. All these teams start being talked about. And so here's how it works. When Vlad Guerrero turns down that contract from the Blue Jays, one of two things is happening. One, he's telling the Blue Jays, I'm not going to negotiate, and that's the deadline day. And if the Blue Jays want to keep him, then the Blue Jays get back with Scott Boras, and they say, fine, Scott, let's go. So reportedly, the Blue Jays offered him like the $400 million range, which seems fair. Geez, $400 million to play baseball? That'd be pretty cool. So they're either putting pressure on the Blue Jays because they want the Blue Jays to make a deal with them, or they're really serious about leaving town. And Scott Boras says to the Blue Jays, look, this isn't some sort of a ploy. A lot of times it is a ploy to get the money out of you, to get you off your dime, to get you to do the contract. This is usually what that is. Okay, Vlad wants to stay, but he's got to do this. He's got to kick up dirt. He's got to say he's going to leave. So you're going to really come up with a contract or not. And when the Blue Jays say no, then the clock starts to tick and teams start to call. So when I said yesterday, the Giants have got to get on the phone, and then all these people came back to me and said, what are you, crazy? He's not a free agent. That would be tampering. That would be tampering. How could you tamper? The whole league is tampering 24/7, 365. They're tampering. That's what they do because it's like starting a race and the team's got the car warmed up and everybody's going and all that kind of, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, the race is going, and then you get in the car and you start like you're way behind. You're already out of the race. If you haven't made the contact, if you haven't laid the groundwork, sports is a lot like life. When you get a deal, like you're a sales guy, right? Rarely you're going to walk into a place and the guy's going, "Oh my God, I've never met you before, and I've never seen your product, but God, that's $1 million idea. Here is $1 million." It's years of relationships and working it and all this, and then you finally get the deal. There is no such thing as an overnight success. You work and you work and you work it and you work your contacts and you do these things, and there's a certain way that things are done in professional sports, and that's how you get said player. It's through relationships, it's through an agent, it's through, so all these things are happening all the time. So all I'm saying is I found it laughable when people attacked me, and that's fine. You know this if you're a regular viewer of the program. I'm cool with explaining or saying I'm wrong or any kind of that kind of thing. When Vlad said no to the Blue Jays offer yesterday, it's either A, Boras trying to get more money out of the Blue Jays, which is probably first. There's a pecking order. So the first thing is Boras is trying to get money out of the Blue Jays. If the Blue Jays are like, Scott, seriously, I understand what you're doing. I get it that he's put this false deadline ahead and he's trying to get more money out of us. Our offer is our offer. So then Scott Boras starts to go to the insiders, starts to lay the groundwork, starts to talk to the Mets. Hey, by the way, this is real, man. Get ready with Vlad. Here's what it would probably take. Starts to talk to the big boys because what does he want to do? He wants to build a market. Well, how do you build a market? You don't build it with Minnesota or Pittsburgh. You build it with the big boys, Boston, New York, LA. Who's interested? That makes the money go up. And then those get out. Jeff Passan, hey, the Yankees are interested. The Mets are interested. All of a sudden, and you're saying to yourself, how's that happening? Because that's tampering. He didn't do anything. He just put it through agents that they'd be interested. Duh, they're interested. It's obvious those major teams are interested. So if you're I'll go back to the premise of yesterday. If you're the Giants and you don't call, you're not doing your job. If you're the Mariners, I was on a Seattle show yesterday, and a lot of people came in Seattle from Seattle. If you're the Mariners, if you're any of those teams, you've got to call. He's a generational talent at the age of 25. And it doesn't matter if he's not a free agent because here are the Blue Jays. Now that it's not a fake thing, now that other teams, now that there's buzz, now that there's heat on the Blue Jays, now that all the things are going, all of a sudden the Blue Jays are off to a 500 start. And now the Sharks are circling. Hey, what are you going to do? Lose Vlad Guerrero, one of the best hitters at age 25, who, as I told you, his free agency's flawed. He's not a great defender, but damn, with the stick in his hands, he's about as good as it gets right now, especially from the right side. So now the Sharks are circling, and they say to the Blue Jays, guys, we don't believe you. You don't have any leverage. Your team's not very good. You can get a comp pick. Boy, wouldn't that be cool? But he's already told you he's not staying, and you're not going to offer him the money. Now the teams start coming in. Well, are they just going to come in flat and fresh? We don't know anything about the situation. No. They've talked to Boras. They've talked to the team. They have a general idea of what Vlad wants money-wise. They have a general idea of what the Blue Jays would want from your system. Hey, look, hypothetically speaking, would we even be in this thing? Do you like Bryce Eldridge? Do you like Kyle Harrison? Do you like, I don't know the Mariners farm system well enough. But these things are all laid out now. They're not done at the deadline. Can you imagine if you just started doing your work at the deadline and you're trying to get your team better and you're like, God, we have prospects. Do they like our prospects? How much does he want? Geez, can we sign him long-term? These things are constantly being done, just like in business. And there's tampering and there's heavy petting and there's talking and there's teams going to players going, hey, I know you're close with Vlad. Ask him what it would take. Ask him if he's bluffing. Ask him if he wants to really stay in Toronto. Would he come to San Francisco? Is he afraid of the park? All this intel is being done constantly. Teams are getting it through different avenues. You don't have to directly pick up the phone and talk to the other general manager. But I mean, what's the harm? So is baseball going to come back to and record the phone call between Buster Posey and the Toronto GM? Hey, this thing on Vlad, is that for real? Is he bluffing? Where are you at with this? Yeah, Buster, it's early in the process. We're still working on it, but yeah, if anything comes about it, we'll let you know. All right. And just for the heck of it, man, what do you're Bryce Eldridge guy, but what do you think? You're laying groundwork constantly with that kind of stuff, because when you make that phone call and they hit the button and they say, you know what, he is available. By the way, everybody's available because Luka just got traded. So that's what I'm talking about. Do you think the Lakers and the Mavs woke up one day and said, what do you think, man? You think Luka to the Lake? What would you want back? Well, you got to get Anthony Davis. Like, these constantly happening. So again, I don't want to belabor these points. I don't want to sit here and talk about non-sports all the time and contracts and how things work and tampering and all these kind of things. The only reason I'm bringing it up is it is a fascinating thing that a 25-year-old with Scott Boras as the agent, it becomes a very complicated thing. It becomes a very sticky web because now Scott Boras doesn't get the number he likes from the Blue Jays, and now it's on. And the Blue Jays know it. He's going to go pedal to the metal. He's going to say, why aren't other teams spending money? He's got a point for, I said he's got a point for once. He often has points. And I don't love Scott Boras. I don't love the way things happen. But that's where everything starts. The Blue Jays say, we're not getting to that number. Here's $400 million. He's not Juan Soto. We're not going to get to that number. He's not Ohtani. We're not going to get to $700 million. That seems to be where it is. And Boras wants to put pedal to the metal and get every dime. He wants to get what Juan Soto got. So the Blue Jays don't get there. The Blue Jays, are they serious? That's number one. Are they going to shop him? Because here's where time is now running out on the Blue Jays. They've got to get something more than a comp pick for Vlad Guerrero. And the players run this thing. It was another thing that there was a misunderstanding about yesterday in this back and forth of these tweets. The teams don't have leverage anymore. As in baseball, for example, after arbitration is over and the players start saying, we want X and we want Z and we want this money and this, that, and you won't come up to that number, then they just flat out say, look, and this happens to the NBA all the time. Then I want to trade. And I'm going to be a pain in the butt, Jimmy Butler, until I get it. And I'll do whatever I have to do, but I don't want to be here. Now, I told you before Jimmy Butler, right when he started kicking this up, and then Pat Riley said, no, we're not going to trade him. That was to keep leverage. I knew Jimmy Butler would go to the team that would give him an extension. And I know for a fact that the Warriors wouldn't give him an extension, which is the reason why he said no initially. And then finally the Warriors knew that they had to give him the extension and said, we'll give you the extension. And then all of a sudden Jimmy Butler said, I love the Bay Area. So it all works like that. So anyway, I'm not going to go deep into it, but that's just, well, I already did go deep into it, but that's just how things work. Everything is constantly churning behind the scenes. Agents, insiders, GMs, other players and other teams, everyone is constantly tampering, moving. Everybody's team is not set right now. There could be a major trade. Toronto could just say, you know what? Because that's what you do. You pick up the phone. That's your job as a general manager. Phone is ringing and it's coming from the 415. And Buster Posey says, we'll give you Bryce Eldridge. We'll give you Kyle Harrison. We'll give you Birdsong. We'll give you Mason Black. We'll give you Marco Luciano. And it's their job to listen. And then they huddle back around. They don't just say no. Well, sometimes they do if it's a dumb offer. But I mean, let's say that that's kind of a reasonable offer. And then they go back and they huddle and they say, look, man, we don't want to trade Vladdy right before the season. But here's the bottom line. If we don't think that we're a team that's going to contend, and by the way, you're in the AL East. You're in the AL East. The Yankees are pretty good. The Orioles are pretty good. The Red Sox have gotten better. The Rays, not great right now, but they're a big pain. They can be a pain with the way that they do things. So if you're Toronto and you're sitting there, and remember in the offseason, you offered all these different players your money. Corbin Burns was offered a couple of years ago. Ohtani, they're another one of those teams that just people won't take their money. I don't know. They don't want to go north of the border, whatever the case may be. It's a pain in the butt. Toronto's got to look at themselves realistically in the mirror and say, okay, if we don't, the minute the season starts and we're not good, leverage goes like this for us because everybody knows we have to trade him and everybody knows we're not going to just settle for a comp pick for Vlad Guerrero. And so at the beginning of the season might be the best time that they get their best offer. Again, it's about leverage. And they think to themselves, geez, we just got 2 or 3 massive offers. And we got a first baseman from the Giants, 3 pitching prospects. Luciano's an interesting guy. That's probably what it would take, and that's probably not even enough. I just gave 3 pitching prospects, Bryce Eldridge and Luciano, and I know you love your prospects. I know. You'd rather, what's behind door number 3, Monty? Because those are the unknown, and we all love the unknown, and then they become the known, and then they lose their value, and they're not very good, and you go, God, why did I like that prospect so much? I like the known over the unknown. So, okay, I'm going to be done. That's all I'm saying is it's constant work. And for those, it's tampering. It's professional sports, billion dollar industry, billions of dollars. You're constantly trying to make yourself better. And if you're not trying to do that, and if you're not working the relationships, and if you don't know who's truly available, maybe Vlad isn't truly available. Maybe it's just between the Blue Jays and Boras right now, and they're fighting that fight, right? They're going back and forth, playing that game, the dancing game right now. Fine, we'll get to your number. He won't negotiate during the season. Fine. Or the Blue Jays are behind the scenes going, you know what? We're not that good. We're probably a 500 team in a really hard division. This might be the best offers. These might be the best offers we get. And if you don't call and don't make the offer, but he's not a free agent, Lund. Right. Okay. Thanks for coming. All right. There is the Vladimir Guerrero thought. Here's the bottom line to the whole thing. If you want to win at a really high level, you make the call to the Blue Jays and you find out if it's real or not. That's all I'm saying at the bottom line to all of this. And my biggest question is, and this is again where I think there's a misperception amongst fans of every sport, they assume their team wants to win. So I'm sitting in the Bay Area right now. Of the ownership groups in the Bay Area, who wants to win? I mean, the Sharks are completely rebuilding, so it's hard to tell. But when they get to their point, will they make those moves? They have in the past. I'll say that they want to win. The Warriors, there's no doubt Joe Lacob wants to win. He continually throws money at this whole thing. Jimmy Butler's contract's going to cost him a lot more than the contract itself, whether it's 112 or 120, whatever. He's going to go into the tax bracket again because Steph Curry has made the value of this team so high, and basically he built the Chase Center, not with his own hands, but you get the idea. So if you look at this whole thing, okay, all right, the Warriors are trying to win. The 49ers, within the rules financially of what they have to do, I think the 49ers want to win. Do they always make the right moves? No, but they're always in on moves. They're always trying to win, whether you agree or not that they're in a championship window. I still think they are coming off a 6-11 season. We'll see what they can do, but I've told you this before. In the NFL, it's different. You can go over the line in the NBA. The penalties year after year are pretty tough on you. In baseball, they're not, which is why I get so frustrated with the Giants. The first year you go over, it's 20%. It's not a lot. Second year, over the line, over the tax number, it's 30%, not a lot. The Dodgers have been going over the tax line for a long time, and they defer money, and that's at 50%. You reset it the year you go backwards. So what the Giants are trying to do, because they were a taxpayer last year, and that worked out so well, that they want to go back to the 20%, and that's fine. But the irony with the Giants is they don't even get to that number. So they're like $24-25 million under the number right now. So how can I come to any other conclusion that the Giants are more worried about? Look at the star of the show is the ballpark. The star of the show are the turnstiles. The star of the show is all this great food and beer and all these different things. Please spend your money here. I don't get the feeling that they're trying to win at the highest level, because when you come in every year, the greatest telltale sign for the most part, like some teams, you get young basketball teams, for example, like Cleveland, and they have Donovan Mitchell too, but they got a bunch of young players who are growing, much like the Warriors at the beginning of their run. They were growing, and you bought the continuity line. How come you're not trading for somebody? How come you're not spending a bunch of money? How come you're not? Because you know what? We believe in the team that we have, and we're gonna go with the continuity line here. And this young talent's going to grow together and we're going to be really, really good. And you could see it from the Warriors' perspective. And thank God they didn't trade for Kevin Love when there was talk about it. Thank God they didn't sign DeAndre Jordan when they signed him to an offer sheet. Those things could have deterred things, put things on a detour for a while. They didn't. Joe Lacob kind of tried, but then there was the Jerry West, and he was like, no, just let's stay the course. So sometimes staying the course is a great idea. But as I look at the Giants, and I was saying this on the Seattle radio station, and you and I know this, the if game, the if Lamont Wade, the if Tyler Fitzgerald, the if Bailey hits, if Ramos is first half, Ramos not second half, if Jung-Hoo Lee, who everybody is, for some reason thinks he's going to be automatically great. He had a 641 OPS. If Mike Yastrzemski, if the rotation, there's just so many ifs within the Giants. And the line that they're giving us is, I think, is an excuse not to spend more money and not to bring in better players and not commit to winning, is we have faith in our young guys. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if that comes true. I'll be the first one to say this is cool, because I'm not cynical by nature, and I would love it if the Giants were great, because that would make for a whole summer for you and I to sit here and just have a ton of fun, right? We'd sit here and have fun, and it would be cool. And so at the bottom line of everything, I think they should look into Vladimir Guerrero. I think he's a 25-year-old stud. He hits right-handed, so in this park, he could still have a 40 home run season. I think there are just so many reasons and ways, and it goes beyond just. And again, this is where you got to be smarter. It goes beyond just, oh my God, we're giving Vlad Guerrero X amount of dollars. It's buzz around your team. It's guys wanting to come here because they know you're serious about winning. How many times have we heard from players, like Aaron Judge? He wasn't sure that the Giants were going to win and that they were committed to winning. Like how come the Dodgers signed so many guys? Money. I know it was the first thing that came in your mouth. Money, 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 money. Yeah, no, that wasn't good. But it's a major factor beyond the money is they are committed to winning. So if these guys who want to win, who want to get a ring, they don't even have to ask the question. There's no question for an agent. There's no question for a player that the Dodgers want to win, that the Yankees want to win, that, again, go to the NBA, the Warriors want to win, the Niners want to win, the Eagles want to win. We can see the teams very simple who actually want to win, and then we question the teams that don't. And not everybody's going to come here, understand that, hitters, all those kind of things. But you can tell as a fan who's committed to winning and who's committed to not winning. Now, maybe Buster Posey picked up that phone yesterday and he called the Blue Jays and he said, guys, is this kind of a fake thing? Is it you and Vlad doing the dance? Are you guys really going to get a divorce? It's kind of like that old girlfriend and you're divorced too. And it's like all of a sudden on Facebook, it says it's complicated. Is it tampering if you text her? I mean, it says it's complicated. It used to say happily married, and there was all sorts of pictures of her and all of her husband and everything like that. And now it's just her alone, or it's her and her kids, right? So all of a sudden you just shoot her, you shoot her a DM. Hey, how's it going? Haven't seen you for years. Is that tampering? I mean, should the guy be pissed off? But her relationship thing now says complicated and she's separate, or maybe it says separated. That's what Vlad and the Blue Jays are going through. It's complicated. Or they're separated. Well, you're the Giants. What do you have to do? Well, I got to wait till they're divorced, man. I got to wait till they're divorced. No, you don't. They're separated. It's complicated. They're having issues. He moved out. There's no pictures of him on Facebook anymore. It's just her, a lot of her and kind of sexy stuff. She didn't used to post stuff in bikinis, and now she's in a bikini all of a sudden and she's on a beach and it's just her. And there's a couple pictures of her kids, but there's nothing of her husband. So what do? I got to wait, man. Got to wait. If you wait, you will not get that done. That's just all I'm saying. I think that's a perfect analogy. That's Lund. That's tampering. He's under contract. I got so many of those yesterday. I started laughing. I was like, he's tampering and that's cheating. And he's under contract. He's not a free agent. I'm going, okay. We know better. All right. That's enough on Vlad for the day. I'm just saying. And here's the other thing that really sucks. And I said this to you yesterday. I can sit here and talk about this whole thing because I don't rant and rave. I just talk. I can sit here and talk about this whole thing about Vlad Guerrero, but in the back of my mind, and this is why players don't come here beyond the money, because I know the Giants do offer some money. Here's why players don't come here. Because they don't take them seriously. Like you and I are sitting here having this conversation about Vlad Guerrero, and it's this pie in the sky, there's no way he's coming kind of thing. I say it because I want the organization to wake up and be a player. And that piece I showed you earlier, here, look at this. So this is the piece I saw that was written by MLB.com, which is the official website of the sport. In a Vlad Jr. free agency frenzy. So the day after he says he's not going to re-sign with the Blue Jays and not going to talk about it during the season, MLB.com says, in a Vlad Jr. free agency frenzy, so we're already in a frenzy, who are the most likely suitors and frontrunners? Can you guess what they said without reading the piece? I don't know if there's any giveaways here. Not the Cubs, because that's just an ad. So it's not that. So if you read the ad, read the ad. If you read the piece, it's Yankees, Mets. Doesn't say Dodgers. Yankees, Mets, Red Sox. I don't know, major market teams. It's just the major market teams. They don't mention the Giants. The only reason they don't mention the Dodgers is because Freddie Freeman's there. But I can guarantee you this: next year, like, can Vlad play third? Who the Dodgers have at third? Like somewhere. I mean, could he split his time? It's not like that. We know this. Like if I told you Vlad Guerrero went to the Dodgers, and you're like, well, they have Freddie Freeman at first. They seem to be pretty set, aren't they? Would it surprise you in the slightest? Of course it wouldn't. So that's the kind of, like, when you're walking around as a Dodgers fan or a Yankees fan or a Mets fan, or the Red Sox seem to be coming back, or a Phillies fan or something like that, like when a player like Vladimir Guerrero is potentially a free agent at some point, and if the Blue Jays start going downhill, and even right now, I guarantee you that the Blue Jays are listening for offers if this is real. If this is just not a ploy by Vlad and his side and Scott Boras to get the Blue Jays off the dime, if this is real and they are at an impasse And Vlad Guerrero said they weren't even close. His interpreter said they weren't even close in contract negotiations. So if that is all true, then the Sharks are already starting to come around, and the Blue Jays may look at this and say, okay, we're going to get our best offer right now. Let's just move on. We don't want a whole year of this. We don't want to do this. He's not going to re-sign. It's clear. There's a massive canyon between the two sides. As a fan of one of those teams, you're walking around going, my team is going to be in that. And if, as a Giants fan, you shouldn't feel like an A's fan or a Twins fan or a Pirates fan or a Brewers fan. You shouldn't feel that like that kind of a fan. You should feel like, as a major market team, market 4 in the country, single largest entity, single team entity in all of Major League Baseball, you should be able to think to yourself, we're in on Vlad Guerrero. If Vlad Guerrero is they're getting pressure to move Vlad Guerrero, we're in on that, but we're not. Because me and you are sitting here, and I'm just like, this is fantasy land. Maybe I'm wrong, and you believe that they're in on this thing. But as I'm saying this, I'm only saying it, and I'm only saying it over and over again because I want them to change the way they view themselves, so that we can all change the way we view them. And the reason they're not signing players, one of the big reasons is, so when these guys make all their oodles of money, and believe me, it's number 1 on the list. Not sometimes, every time. Every time it's all about money, and then everything lines up for number 2. Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver. Who's number 2? You know, it just, some lists start at number 2. That's just what it is. So it starts at number 2, and you start looking at this thing, and you're going, okay, where do we go? And so, look, I just want him to be part of the conversation because I feel that's the least. Do they have to get everybody? And see, here's again where I think there's some confusion. If they truly tried for Ohtani, truly tried for Harper, truly tried for, whoever, I guess I can live with that. It's never fun being the bridesmaid. I'd rather not even be in it, never have the rumors around it. But if they're in it, seriously in it, not just, to win press conferences or to say, God, we almost did it, because, the greatest baseball team of all time is the guys the Giants almost signed or were in on. But they should legitimately be in on these guys. Now, whether they sign it, whether they can close it, that's why I thought Buster was here. And I'm not criticizing Buster. But one of the most exciting things that I thought of when Buster Posey became the president of baseball operations for the Giants, what danced in my head, and still does, I still believe this, is that they were going to be able to get a seat at the table for these kind of free agents, and they were going to truly listen to what the Giants had to say. Now, I know the limitations of the ballpark. I'm sick of hearing about the limitations of the finances, because that only works to a certain extent. The Mets and Dodgers and Yankees don't get everybody. They get a lot of them. They don't get everybody. So when we start the conversation with those guys, and MLB.com did with Vlad Guerrero, I think it's reasonable as a Giants fan to think, I just want a seat at the table. And then if I get a seat at the table and have a guy like Buster Posey in the room, I got a shot. When I had Farhan in the room and he was giggling and dorky and showing me computer printouts off a dot matrix printer from the 80s, and look at this, and we project you to do that. Ugh. Is there anybody else I can speak to? Is there any other teams in this room? I think he should be at the table. I think they should be legitimate options for players like Vladimir Guerrero. And I'm saying this, but then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, do I believe that? I don't know. All right. That's the baseball portion of the show. Let's see. How do people feel about Vlad? I mean, we'd all love to get him. I'm not saying it wouldn't be great to get him. I'm just simply saying that in terms of the actuality of it, I don't feel confident about it. Like, I say these things and I believe that that's what should be going on. But then I think to myself, do they really have a shot? And I kind of laugh. No. No. Then I feel they're afraid to go all in on rebuilding, bring up the rookies, 10 to 12 players. Yeah, see, and you're right, Scott. The Cubs did it, won a World Series. The Astros did it, won a World Series. The knock against us on the West Coast is that we won't tolerate it. We won't go to the games. We won't sit through that. So then what tends to happen is, and again, the thing that's crazy is, in saying all these kind of things, if you wanted to put a big hole in my argument, you'd say, well, then why did they sign Willy Adames? Great question. And I don't have an answer for it, because Willy Adames is the outlier. And then everybody else, they think all these other guys are going to come through. First base, Lamont Wade Jr., but he's going to be healthy. And we saw flashes of Fitzgerald. And Adames is Adames, and Chapman's really good. And Bailey, he's got his WAR numbers are great just because he's so great defensively. And hey, Ramos did it in the first half. And there's a reason we signed Jung-Hoo Lee to the big contract. And, Mike Yastrzemski's a far above average defensive right fielder. So, there's some things. And then if you went into the rotation and you wanted to be positive about those kind of things, Logan Webb's Logan Webb. Justin Verlander, don't bet against him. Robbie Ray's been really successful in this league. There's a reason why Kyler Harrison is so well thought of, and at one point was the top left-handed prospect in all of baseball. A bullpen is a bullpen. Who knows? Bullpens year to year tend to fluctuate. But Ryan Walker's pretty good. If Duvall can get his head on straight, that's a pretty good eighth inning guy. So that's their view. That is their viewpoint. Now, whether they believe it or not is one thing. But that's what they're going to be selling to us, is that, look, this is our team, and we believe in this team because of X, Y, and Z, where I'm sitting here going, geez, you got a lot of ifs there. So maybe they don't believe that, but anybody could use Vladimir Guerrero Jr., anybody. And the ballpark is going to be a major question. I'm just saying, if Buster, the reason he was hired, if Buster's at that table, I got to feel good. But are agents like Scott Boras and other agents like that taking the Giants seriously? Are they saying, you know what? Because if it's not a thing, if it's real between the Blue Jays and Vlad, and they are miles apart on this thing, he's eventually going to get traded. Whether it's right now, whether it's when they get off to a slow start, whether it's just at the deadline in general, because they can't, even if, let's say the Blue Jays are on pace to win 100 games. I guess Vlad could come back, but if they're still in this wide canyon between what they're offering and what Vlad wants, then they're going to get a comp pick. And as a general manager of the Blue Jays, we talk about, when you look at a trade, are you going to get fired if you do the other side of the trade? That's why I like to look at trades. Okay, I get it from the Niners or the Giants or the Warriors perspective. Great trade from their perspective. Let's flip it and go to the other side and ask ourselves, if we do this deal, does the other general manager get fired? So if I'm running the Toronto Blue Jays and I'm coming up against it at the All-Star deadline and we're doing pretty good, do I add? Or do I try to get Vlad? Hey, Vlad, we still are on this deal. Does the number go up? Does my ownership say, woo, we're in the midst of it, and they start throwing money around like crazy people? Most owners don't. So because they're winning, they're not going to necessarily throw that money at Vlad. So now even if they win this year, they're in a tough spot, because do we give up one of the best young hitters in baseball at the age of 25? And I keep saying that he's going to turn 26 shortly. So 26 for a comp pick, you can't do that. There's certain players where it's like, yeah, I'll take a comp pick for that guy. It's the best we can do. That's fine. We're going to rebuild through the system. The A's got to take comp picks. There's, smaller market teams got to take comp picks, or they try to make the best deal that they can possibly make. But that's kind of the circle of things. So just to finish on this whole thing, for all the people saying he's not a free agent, there's tampering, there's all these different things. That's what's going on in the league constantly right now. There are teams gauging whether the Blue Jays and Vladimir Guerrero are seriously getting a divorce, or are they just separated and getting back together. I mean, that's the best analogy. I've been divorced. I mean, are they serious about this? Because if they're serious, and go back to the Facebook thing, and the husband is off of Facebook and she's wearing a sexy bikini outside on the beach, all the thing, guess what? It's not a joke. Like they're not just living apart. They're not just separated. They're getting a divorce, and you can DM her. And that's kind of what we're all trying to figure out. Like, are the Blue Jays and Vlad really that far apart? Because if they are, teams are going to start coming in. And tampering be damned. So, good morning. It is great to see you. It is episode 66. Vlad's story and Vlad tweets where we've been for the last, 43 minutes on all this kind of stuff. Just because, like I said, I had this whole conversation on X yesterday. And what's funny is I started writing a couple of different times in responses to certain people's, because I was just trying to go, oh my gosh. And then I thought to myself, as I deleted them, because I'm not an angry person, and I thought to myself, A, that's going to come across as a way I don't want to come across on social media, and B, I have a whole show to do. Like, we can talk about it as long as we want, and there's no breaks, and there's no this, and there's not, so I can explain it. And if those people don't come back and listen to the show or something, then okay, no big deal. So, Durant. So Kevin Durant, I brought this up yesterday. Let's do some NBA stuff. So I brought up this stuff on Kevin Durant. Let me double check to see that there's no remnants left from Vlad or baseball or anything like that, because I'm going to try to keep the chalkboard moving so that we don't have to jump back and forth. Yeah, you are right. What day would be? Let's see. This is 66 and it's Wednesday. So 67 Thursday, 68 Friday. Right? Am I right? Yeah, 69 would be Saturday. Wow, a Saturday edition of the show is episode 69. I'll have to do something special for that. Some Rob Gronkowski or something like that. So anyway, somebody's asking me if does Mark Davis truly want to win? I think Mark Davis truly wants to win. I just don't think he knows what he's doing. And I think at some point that comes down to, we've talked about this with Jed York before. At some point you're banging your head against the wall, and you go, you know what? Let me hire some people that know what they're doing, and then I stay out of the way, and I know what I don't know, and then we might start winning. And that's what he needs to do. We talk about owners all the time. Scott says the Giants don't have enough to trade for Vlad unless Vlad chooses the Giants, and that's probably not going to happen. And you might be right. You know, all the so-called experts are saying that the Giants don't have a good farm system, so maybe they don't. But a lot of times too, it's the leverage that's created. So right now, the Blue Jays have good leverage because they have him for an entire season. But the less games they win right out of the gate, the less leverage they have. You get to the deadline and they aren't very good, the less leverage you have. So I guess my point in responding to that would be, you may not need the best deal. Sometimes it's about timing and all these kind of things, and you scratch your head and you go, how did they get that guy for that? How did they pull that off? Well, because the Blue Jays were at the deadline and they were going to get a comp pick or nothing, and they decided to take what they could get, and maybe that's the best they could get. Now, I find that hard to believe, as you're pointing out, that if this Vlad Guerrero thing goes absolutely, baseball wide, then there's going to be a bunch of offers that are going to be bananas and out of this world that people are going to perceive, by the way. And there are certain trades that absolutely work and jumpstart you, like the Juan Soto trade. Looks like Washington's going to get a decent haul out of that whole thing. The big outfielder, James Wood, he looks like a pretty good player, those kind of things. But it goes back to, especially in baseball, something that you and I always talk about, which is like all these prospects. I bring up Trey Turner and Max Scherzer just because I think it's Ruiz who's the catcher there. He's not very good. And like Josiah Gray, those were the headliners. They're not very good. And you gave up Trey Turner and Max Scherzer for that kind of stuff. Like these big trades happen all the time. And then these teams know their systems a lot better than another team does. And they'll give up certain players and won't give up certain players. And you just don't know. And I don't know the way Bryce Eldridge is thought of amongst baseball people. I saw yesterday that he was the 26th ranked prospect. You would think amongst Giants fans that he's Will Clark reincarnated already, and you can't trade him. I mean, there's just no way. So we'll see. It's probably somewhere in between the Will Clark comp, of which Giants fans seem to think, and what baseball evaluators actually think he's going to be. A big, tall guy with that kind of swing, that's hard to replicate time and time and time again. I know Aaron Judge does it, and Bryce Eldridge's swing is pretty. But other than that, I mean, I've seen clips of him. I've been to San Jose, and I've seen him play great. I've seen him hit a ball a long way. Tremendous. I don't know who that pitcher is. Is he going to be, is he going to be a veterinarian in 5 years, that pitcher? I mean, I don't know what he's going to be, but we look at highlights and we just freak out over the whole thing. All right, let's move to this Durant thing, because this is something I always do. Is I bring something up, I say we're going to change, and then we don't move it. So let me move to this. Oh, I just saw breaking news right there, but it's why is Joy catching grief all of a sudden? Joy's catching grief. All right, let me get to this Durant thing. So I talked about this, and we talked about this around the deadline. Why wouldn't Durant want to come here? It's all this stuff around the Warriors. It's, maybe it's not Steve Kerr. Maybe it's not Draymond Green, although I don't buy that theory. And when Last Dance comes out, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, I do think Draymond's going to be a major part of why Durant left, but he's being nice right now. So my theory on Kevin Durant, who knows what Kevin Durant is thinking, is that Kevin Durant doesn't want to win a title with the Warriors, is worried about what people are going to say, that it's not his team, it's not his town, it's not his timeline. He wanted to get away from the Warriors with the Nets, didn't work. Wanted to get away from the Nets with the Suns, isn't working because of Bradley Beal won't move his contract. So he's got a major problem on his hands if he wants to, and this is where he is. He's one of those rare air players. He's one of the rare air players where it is about legacy. It's not about how much he makes. No one asks as part of is he the greatest of all time or into the Hall of Fame? Hey, what were his career earnings anyway? How much that guy make? Like, no one cares. It's about titles, and it's about titles on any team, and it doesn't matter if you joined a team or whatever, however it's perceived to be Steph's team. But I do think there's a large element of that Steph Curry, he loves playing with Curry. He said that. He says he's cool with Draymond Green. He has said publicly it's not a problem with Steve Kerr. Then I don't understand what it is. So this is something, I played this yesterday, and then I'm going to play this thing that came from ESPN, and Malik Andrews asked him the very question. But when I saw this, And so Kevin Durant turns it down. He doesn't deny that. Didn't want to go to Golden State. When I see something like this, I go, okay, there's got to be something because this doesn't make sense. This is Kevin Durant over the weekend talking about how great it is to play with Steph Curry.
Easy to play with Steph. Like he doesn't demand the ball. He doesn't have a demanding personality. He just plays within the flow of the game, and those are the type of players easy to play with.
I say you scratch your head. You go, well, if he's easy to play with and you like him, and you say you have no problem with Draymond Green, and you say you have no problem with Steve Kerr, and this had to be the best time of your basketball life. You won 2 championships. You won 2 NBA Finals MVPs. If you don't rip that Achilles against Toronto in 2019, you're probably going 3 titles, 3 MVPs, or whatever. Maybe it's Steph. But the fact is that, yeah, drafted by Oklahoma City, and that was your team, and I'm sure that was special. Brooklyn was an absolute disaster. The Suns things turned it into a disaster. So, like, you were at the top of your game. You were in the prime of your career. Why wouldn't you want to go back to the Warriors? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So then Kevin Durant was asked by Malika Andrews on ESPN, why say no to a Warriors trade?
That's not the reason why I didn't want to come back. I just didn't want to get traded midway through the season. And it was nothing against my time with the Warriors, or I heard because I don't like Draymond. At the end of the day, I just didn't want to move, and I wanted to see it through with my team in Phoenix and see what we could do the rest of the season. So I'm glad I'm still there.
Okay. Only Kevin Durant knows if he's telling 100% the truth. This is pure speculation on my part, and it could be completely stupid and off base, but I'm willing to take that chance. This often happens throughout the show. Players get traded. It's part of the deal. Kevin Durant, did he get traded? I think he got traded in the middle of the season with the Suns, right? That wasn't an off-season trade. That was middle of the season kind of a deal. I can't imagine what they go through. It's one thing we don't think about. We think that these guys are like robots that are in a locker and they just get, okay, time to play the game. They got to move teams across the country, all these kind of things. Remember it was, I'm blanking on the guy's name, and we had him on the show on KMBR right before the season started. The center, he used to be the Blue Jays. And I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Really good defensive player. He used to be the Blue Jays. And literally like a day before the season, he had all sorts of foundations in Toronto and everything. He got traded to the Giants, and we had him on like probably the next day after that. He had been a Giant maybe like 3 days, right? He had been a Giant like 3 days, and Pop and I are sitting there asking him, going, Kevin Pillar, thank you, Vernon. Kevin Pillar gets traded a few years ago to the Giants. I think like the day before the season started. Literally the day before the season started. He's got kids. He's got kids in school. He lives in Canada. He says, and I understand because I'm the same way as you, because you're probably sitting there watching going, Lund, he gets paid so much money. Stop it. And you're right. They get paid a ton of money for this. And it's part of the process. And somebody just popped up there. Jazz fan just popped up. Schroeder called it slavery. Kevin Durant kind of alluded to the same thing. They were bought and sold. He used those kind of terms. And that bothers me just because, you're getting paid a lot of money to play basketball, a lot of money. And part of the deal is you could get traded at any point. Your contract is not related to a team. It's an NBA or Major League Baseball or NFL contract. And the timing isn't right sometimes. And I do think about players, and we don't a lot of times. When Charvarius Ward has the kind of season he had last year and his nearly 2-year-old daughter died, I'm sorry, we would all just be a complete mess. But he has to do it on a public stage, or the things that Andrew Wiggins went through. And I don't know what they are. I know they were related to his dad, and his dad had substance abuse problems. And now his dad has passed away. And it seems like when he was with the Warriors, now, of course, in Miami, but when Andrew Wiggins was with the Warriors, he seemed to be relaxed and everything was good. And so when you're doing well off the field, off the court, we all know this. We all have jobs to do. And for some reason, when my dad was passing away with cancer, in a short period of time, they gave him 90 days. He passed in 84. The only time that I felt, and it's a lot of it is what I did for a living like this. I can be an absolute dumpster fire away from this microphone. And a lot of times I am, but for this amount of time, it's, to me, this part of it is great. I like preparing for it. I like thinking about it. I like writing about it. I like all these different things. So if I'm immersed in all of this, the things that are going on around in my life, I don't have time to focus about them and think about them because I'm trying to entertain and inform and do all these different things. And that's how I felt about it in radio. So my dad literally called me 10 minutes before my show one time. We went noon to 3, Pop and I. And about 11:50, I've talked about this on the air. My dad said, look, I have incurable pancreatic cancer. And I was like, all piss and vinegar. I'm like, we'll fight this and we can do this. And he's like, it's too late. Like, sorry. And you would think that that would be one of the worst shows I could ever have, but it was one of the best shows because I just wanted to focus. And every time I didn't want to take time off and I wanted to work. And there's probably a lot of people like this. So when you're going through hell a lot of times, divorces, I was in radio, obviously going through divorce, all these kind of things. And I don't want to make this about me because it's not. But what I'm saying is I'm using it as an example to say these guys all are going through stuff off the court. And I don't know what they're going through. It could be an Andrew Wiggins thing. It could be a Shavarius Ward thing. Kevin Durant could have things going on in his life. I have no idea. Kevin Durant keeps his off the court life pretty tight and away from us. I don't know who his girlfriend is. I don't know who he's dating. I don't know if he's gay or straight. I don't know. I don't know anything about Kevin Durant's life. And for the most part, I don't care. Unless my kid has his jersey and I live in that market and he's screwing around and being an idiot, or there's very few things. I don't want anybody to die or get hurt or have family members get be sick or anything. I'm not saying I don't care. I'm just saying that in terms of Kevin Durant's life, he just said he didn't want to move. So I don't know if that he doesn't want to move, because the first thing I think of is, well, you're in this sport. And the minute you sign up for it, the minute you start making money at it, you realize that this could happen at any time. And it's not a Suns contract with Kevin Durant. It's an NBA contract with Kevin Durant. So anybody can be traded at any time. Just ask Luka. So then if Luka goes out, and I think Luka's first game, it was like 14 points, 5 rebounds. It wasn't anything to write home about. And then most people, he was just okay. Well, the dude, apparently he was building a $15 million house in Dallas. I am starting to believe that nobody knew about this because, was it Rich Paul from Clutch Sports said, I didn't know about it. He goes, 99.9% of the time, I talk about agents behind the scenes and all these different things and all these parts that are he's working when it comes to Vlad Guerrero and all the things we don't see. Rich Paul came out yesterday and said, I didn't know about the trade. Now, I don't know that I buy that Jason Kidd didn't know about the trade, that it was only Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka. It's got to be at ownership's level. But if you do let too many people in on it, then, yeah, it's going to get out. And this thing didn't get out. It's kind of like those murder mystery movies that you watch. My wife is obsessed with them. And if like one person commits the murder, then maybe they get away with it. But then they start telling somebody and they tell somebody, and all of a sudden 7 people know about it. And all of a sudden, everybody blabs and everybody knows about it. And that's kind of how trades work. It's like you got to keep it really, really tight. And if you don't, then words kind of get out. So just back to Kevin Durant. These guys, they're traded all the time. Kevin Durant said it, but he just didn't want to move in the middle of the season. I don't know that I'm buying that. Like, hey, Kevin Durant, your legacy is on the line. For a lot of people, it doesn't matter. You have 2 championships. That's great. But my theory is he doesn't want to go backwards because he thinks that the Screaming A's and everybody, everybody who talks about it, I mean, he's got these giant antenna rabbit ears. That's what Kevin Durant does. It's unfortunate. But Kevin Durant's got big antenna rabbit ears on the top, and he listens and consumes everything. He shouldn't, but he does, and he cares what people think. So his perception is, if I go back to Golden State, it's going to be Steph's team in Steph's town, and they're going to knock me for it, and we're going to win more championships, but there's an asterisk around it, and it's not my team, it's not my town, it's not my time. And so would he rather just be with the Suns or whatever team he's going to demand to be traded for? Because I'm not going to guarantee it, because I don't, like I said, I don't know Kevin Durant. But I do think in the offseason, he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to try again with his team because he doesn't want to come back. Now, again, he told Malika Andrews, it wasn't anything. I just didn't want to go to the Warriors in the middle of the season. I didn't want to move in the middle of the season. What would be interesting is, and I don't know if she asked him this as a follow-up because I saw this on social media and then played it on the show, which is, what if it was Miami? A new place, cool town, no state income tax. What if Jimmy Butler had stayed and been a nice guy, and Durant, who had many, many times it had been rumored that Pat Riley wanted him with the Heat, and he's got a lot of respect for Pat Riley. So Phoenix to the Bay Area is not that big of a deal. Plus, he knows the Bay Area. Here's where I'm going to knock a few holes in Kevin Durant's theory of, I just didn't want to move in the middle of the season. Okay, but this isn't a new team. This isn't a new town. You know where to live. You know where to eat. You know where to go. Kevin Durant, if you were going to be traded somewhere, and the theory was, I don't want to be traded in the middle of the season, and we're supposed to buy that. But you used to live here. So you know where the practice facility is, you know where to park, you know where to eat, you know where you're going to live, you know where everybody else lives. You don't need directions everywhere. Not that your car couldn't take you everywhere you wanted to go, but that's another reason I just don't buy it. Is it's not really hard to move here. Now it's expensive. If you told me that, Phoenix's state income tax, I think, is like 5.3 or 3.8, or it's low, versus 13.3, I can buy it. If you say you don't want to go backwards because of the perception, I can buy it. All these other things. He just said he didn't want to move. As an athlete, and they move all the time, he said he didn't want to move. And I am absolutely, as somebody who's moved around in the radio business for years and years and years, moving sucks. You feel like a nomad. You feel like a hobo. You feel like, where do I live? Where am I from? Where am I waking up? I get it. And the other thing is they travel all the time. So, and you have people to do these things for you. He's so rich. It's like, look, get me an apartment, set me up with furniture, cable, all the other crap we have to do. Oh man, I got to get the electricity bill in my name. And they don't do any of that. Like, he's just here. I got a guy, I got a person, I got a group, I got these people, and they do it for me. So it's not like you and I moving. Damn, I got to rent a U-Haul. I got to have a yard sale. Oh man, I got to sign up for electricity. I got to this, and I got to do that, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and all these different things that are this long laundry list of moving. I completely understand. And I go from, these guys aren't robots, and it's hard, and they have a personal life, and moving isn't easy, and it's going to take them a while. But Kevin Durant, Phoenix to San Francisco isn't that far. You've already lived here before. It's not like, the team is going to take care of some of it. You've got people to take care of the other part of it. And you can generally concentrate on playing basketball. And it's not great. I don't know where he lives in Phoenix. I don't know if he bought. He probably rented. He's probably leasing for the year. All this is a big pain. How do I get out of the lease? Where's my new lease? How long am I going to be here? All these kind of things. But it's pretty simple in that, and that's, somebody just brought this up. 5950 brought it up. Durant has no kids. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, when Wiggins was talking about when he left, my kids have got to go to a new place. And who was talking? Schroeder was talking about that. That's why he made the slave comments, which we've already talked about. He was talking about his kids and getting traded. And look, talk about not wanting to be traded. Schroeder this year went from, at least on paper, he went from Brooklyn to Golden State to Utah. There was another team in the middle that made a trade work. And then finally, I think he's in Detroit. Like, he's been on 5 teams or something like that this year. And he has kids. Like, talk about not wanting to be traded. Please don't trade me. Durant, you're going to San Francisco. Everybody else is going to do everything for you. You're going to have to play basketball, and you've already lived here before. So that's not really a hard move. But the follow-up question that I think Malika did not ask Kevin Durant is, would you have gone to Miami? Would you have gone to the Lakers? Would you have gone to the, Team X? Was there other teams? I don't know why he was just asked about the Warriors in that clip that I saw. Maybe he was asked in general. But the question was back to him by Malika Andrews was, why did you say no to the Warriors? And speculation when Steve Kerr said, I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to go back. I wouldn't want to deal with it. Some people said Draymond. I have. Some people have said, it's not your championship. So even if you came to the Bay Area and you guys somehow miraculously won the championship, and we're going to play a piece from Draymond in just a second, because I can't wait to play this Draymond thing for you about the championship, and we can talk about that too. But this would have been an easy move for Kevin Durant for all the reasons that I just mentioned. So I'm not buying the fact that he's saying, I just didn't want to move in the middle of the season. Like, I don't think I've ever heard that, other than Dennis Schroeder the other day when he was making the references he was making. I don't know that a player that I can remember publicly said, I said no to a trade because I didn't want to move. And for you and I, that's a thing. Like, hey, the corporation is moving to Dallas. Do you want to stay in California? You want to go to Dallas? I guess I'll just get a new job. Now, if you're in sales, you can do that. If you're, certain things, I'm in a specialized industry. So a lot of times, I moved a lot of times at my own volition because I thought it was a good move for my career. But for a lot of people, it's like, well, geez, like my wife, all of her family's from Northern California. She's from here. Kids are in school here. Like, I could understand if I had an opportunity and I went to her and I said, even now, hey, San Diego, which isn't even very far. If I said, hey, there's an opportunity in San Diego, that's probably different. We'd probably go. But you get what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, we got to take kids out of school and we got to sell the house and we got to, there's a lot to it. Whereas in Durant's world, it's like, look, it's a pain. Don't get me wrong. but having lived here, he knows where to live. He knows where to eat. Get out of his lease, his condo, or his house or whatever he's got. And even if he's got a house in Phoenix, he makes oodles of money, puts it up, someone else sells it for him. It's not like me and you. And so I went from this is really hard on these guys to everybody's got guys to do it. Kevin Durant, what are you complaining about? Bottom line to this whole thing is we'll find out in the Warriors version of The Last Dance. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that Kevin Durant in the middle of the season said when I've never really heard it before. After the fact, I've heard it. But before the fact, yeah, I rejected that trade because I didn't want to move. Yeah, I had chances at championships at Golden State, and my legacy is going to be about championships the rest of the way. And Phoenix, we're spinning our wheels because Bradley Beal has got a total no trade. Only he and LeBron have one in the NBA. So, yeah, I wanted to see what it's going to be like here in Phoenix because, we got to no. Like Devin Booker and you and Bradley Beal, it's not working. It hasn't been working. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And you could go onto another team and have a better chance to win a championship. Now, having said that, maybe he doesn't believe in the Warriors. Maybe it comes down to that. And maybe he's just trying to be a nice guy. I'm kind of thinking out loud here. Maybe he's trying to be a nice guy. And this is a perfect time to play this Draymond stuff. But maybe he's trying to be a nice guy and he says to all his friends and the people behind the scenes, man, I'm going from a place that's not going to win a championship to going to a place that is not going to win a championship. Maybe that's what he thinks. Maybe he thinks the Suns and the Warriors are the same thing with Durant, Green, and Curry, and then everything else. What they had to give up. Now, here's the other thing too. Just the flip side of this whole thing, and then we'll transition this into Draymond Green because it's the perfect time to play what he said over All-Star Weekend, not about the game, but about the Warriors' future this year. But to get Jimmy Butler is one thing. So you gave up Wiggins. You gave up, a couple other things. Slow-mo went there. Kyle Anderson, blah, blah, blah. You gave up some stuff. Wiggins being the main thing. Wiggins and the package they give up for Jimmy Butler, that's not getting Kevin Durant. Matt Ishbia is the owner of the Suns. He wants a rebuild. And if he's going to do a rebuild, I shouldn't say he wants a rebuild, but if he's going to do a rebuild as a new owner to Phoenix, which is a finicky sports market anyway, no one's really from there. And if the team does really, really well, then people will go out to those games. If they don't, then they're just indifferent in Arizona. They're just like, whatever. Phoenix is kind of like, eh. So you better have a Durant, or you better have a direction, or you better have a. So if they were going to make a trade with Phoenix for Durant, Wiggins was going to have to be in it for financial purposes, but Kuminga was going to be in that deal. Kuminga was going to be in that deal. Maybe Podziemski, a lot of guys that the Warriors didn't want to give up would be in that deal. And the reason why the owner, not Mike Dunleavy, this is not a Mike Dunleavy thing. The reason why the owner probably would have approved it was because it was Kevin Durant. It's different. Kevin Durant put a gold shovel in the ground for Chase Center. Kevin Durant won championships. Kevin Durant has very positive history, no matter all the negative talk around it, has very positive history with the Warriors. And Joe Lacob, while he's an owner, is a fan, and Joe Lacob would be like, Kevin Durant? Like Jimmy Butler's one thing, or any of these other guys that were being bandied about as names. Kevin Durant, different. I don't want to trade Kuminga, but Durant, yeah. We're going Wiggins, we're going Durant, now we are clearly in a direction. We're not, are we being young? Are we getting a championship? Are we going young? Are we going old? Are we going this? Are we going that? If Kevin Durant were available and the Warriors did have a deal in place for him, I can guarantee you, not only Wiggins from a financial standpoint, but Kuminga and people that probably the Warriors wouldn't want to trade, but Durant's just a different deal. So, all right, so let me go back to this whole thing about if the Warriors are contenders, because it says right there, Dre title talk and Golden State contenders. And as you can see today, although the chalkboard is limited in what I put down there, I knew that we would have long conversations about it. That's we're about $1:10 into the show today. So before I get to that, I don't want to lose the KD part of this whole thing and why he said no to the Warriors, but this is all going to tie together with Draymond in just a second. Let me go back to Scott says, people forget KD would not sign a 3 or 5 year deal, was doing the 1 year opt out. Then the issues started. Yeah, lots of guys do that now. I mean, LeBron's on that. Jordan was on it. Kobe was on it at the end of his career. And a lot of times the reason they're on it is they want to be the highest paid. So we all sit here. This goes back to a theory of the show, which is everybody wants to win, right? Win, 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 win. Well, Jimmy Butler wanted an extension more than he wanted to win, because in Miami, he had a decent team and some decent guys around him and a good front office and all the things he had. But they told him clearly right before the season, which was their mistake, we're not going to give you an extension. And that caused all the problems. So LeBron's on a 1, Kobe's on a 1. Steph's deal, it's not a 1, but there's some flexibility there. There's two things that accomplishes for the player. A, you're always the highest paid, which they want to be. They don't want to. This isn't a discount. This isn't Tom Brady. They want to be the highest paid. And then the other thing it does is it gives them leverage against the team. So if Steph Curry does 1-1, 1-1, 1-1 the rest of his career, it puts pressure on the organization to win. Hey, man, I'm only on a 1-year deal. And then he can say to the fans, if they're complaining, hey, you left us, man. Hey, my deal was up. Like, my deal was up and the team didn't look like it was winning. So I went to another place. So you do that. You with 1-year contracts, you get leverage. With 1-year contracts, you get the most money. There's no, I'm going to do a long-term deal to give some money back. It's just how you're feeling at the time too. Let's just go year to year. You get to a certain age and you just go year to year on it. Am I going to retire? Am I going to put pressure on you to put the right players around me? Am I going to be highest paid? Like, that's what all these things do. Because when you have X amount in the bank, the reason for a long-term contract, it's like most places. Like I've had long-term contracts my whole career in radio. They don't mean squat. Jack squat. They don't mean squat. They protect the company. They don't really protect me to a certain extent. But what happens is with long-term contracts, it's just because you don't have the money yet. And you want to take care of generations of your family. So guys will sign 10-year contracts. Once they already have that, it's like they'd rather a short-term contract. Short-term means I'm putting pressure on you as a key player. And short-term means I'm going to be highest paid. Because if I sign a 10-year contract, guess what? Patrick Mahomes, in 2 or 3 years, that thing's going to be irrelevant. So at the time, it's like, oh my God, Patrick Mahomes signed a $450 or $500 million contract. And everyone's losing their mind. And now what does Patrick Mahomes make on average? 45, 48, maybe 50. He's not the highest paid. And regardless of what the Super Bowl says, he's the best quarterback in the game. So he's making 45 to 50. And that's why other guys make so much money around him. Well, if he's worth that, then I'm worth this. If he's worth that, I mean, if Patrick Mahomes wanted to go year to year or short-term contracts, he'd be making $70, $80 million a year because the Chiefs have no choice. I mean, just no choice. But if you sign a long-term deal, chances are you're going to be lots of people are going to pass you up. But you got the money. You got a big chunk of money, and you're set for life, and you're set for 10 generations of your family. But if you sign a long-term deal, and this is part of the problem I have with people who do and then try to back out of it, is it's like, well, look, you got the security of a long-term deal. You got the security of this money, depending on the sport you're in. In basketball, long-term deal, you get all the money. In baseball, long-term deal, you get all the money. In football, it's just the guaranteed portions and all the, the stuff going back and forth. It's a hocus pocus kind of a deal. We never truly know what's guaranteed, what's fully guaranteed, what's guaranteed at signing. My head starts spinning. I don't know. What's your AAV? Whatever. So that's different. But in terms of, basketball, baseball, you get that number. So if you sign the long-term deal, just understand you're not going to be the highest paid in a few years, but you're going to have the security of having a long-term contract. And then guys get mad in the middle of the contract. Well, I'm not highest paid. Well, you got security. You can't be highest paid and security. Like, which do you want? You got we gave you a bunch of money up, like in football, for example. We gave you a bunch of money up front, gave you a bunch of guaranteed money, made you the highest paid. And then when these guys run out of guaranteed money, their agents use this thing of like, but he's got no more guaranteed money and you could cut him at any time. So we want more guaranteed money. That's like giving your kid a bunch of money and then he spends it all on candy. And you're like, I told you, you had to buy the membership. You had to do this. You had to do that. I bought it all with candy. I need more. And now, man, you were responsible with your money. I'm not giving you more money. No, but I have no more guaranteed money left. I want more guaranteed money because I don't feel secure. That's what happened to Trent Williams. Hey, dude, you're going to be here. You got lots of money. We already paid you a bunch of upfront money. Like you got your money. Yeah, but I don't have any more guaranteed money. And therefore I don't feel valued. And there, I think you could cut me at any time. And I'm 37, 38 years old. And I'm just going to have to hold out. And then you get more guaranteed money. All right. So I took us off onto a tangent, but that's what I do. So let's go back to this premise of what I really think is what it came down to for Kevin Durant was a couple of different things, which is A, he said no because he didn't want to go backwards. and have it not be seen as his team if he was going to go back and win a championship. And he's far too worried about what other people think. So first of all, that's kind of my thought. That was number one on the list. That's not what he said. That's just what I'm speculating. But number two on the list, I think he looked at the Warriors and he said, I'm in Phoenix with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and really not much else. The Warriors are in a better place as far as that goes. The Suns do not have any depth. But he looked at this team and he said, as much as I like Steph, maybe I can tolerate Dre. Steve Kerr's offense wasn't too bad because it just featured me a lot and Steph. So, okay, I can deal with Steve Kerr. Let's just say those things are all true. The issue I think he has, number two, beyond not wanting to go backwards because of the perception of it, and he's too worried about it with his rabbit ears, is that he wasn't sure that the Warriors were a better winning situation or much of a better winning situation and worth his time to then move. I think that's how I would relate that, is he said he didn't want to move. I think he didn't want to move because he didn't see a lot of difference in the two teams. So here is Draymond Green on TNT talking about the prospects for the Warriors winning at a high level now that they have Jimmy Butler.
Say that with your chest. I didn't hear you, my earpiece. Because they added.
Oh, hang on, let me start.
Man, all right, we probably going to lose this game. It's not good. And so he's brought back that belief, and I think we're going to win the championship.
Say that one more time so that everybody here can
say that with your chest.
I didn't hear you, my earpiece.
Because they added Jimmy Butler the third. So what did you say?
81?
I'm sorry. I said I think we're going to win a championship, but I lied. We are going to win the championship.
Wow.
So there's a couple of things at play here. First of all, when guys say things like this and then people are just outraged by it, they think that they're going to beat this team. They think they're going to win a championship. This guy thinks he's going to beat this guy. This guy, they're professional athletes. If you don't feel that way, then what are you doing? Like if Draymond Green, I don't know why this got so much play, but it did. It's not like a Joe Namath guarantee before Super Bowl III against the Colts and the AFL was just nothing and he wanted to instill confidence in his team. And I always like, here's what I want to finish in line with, because this is how my friends would do it when we were growing up. If somebody guaranteed something, if someone was bold and said, I guarantee this is going to happen or that's going to happen, we'd go, or what? Like the rest of the sentence is, we're going to win a championship. And I'm waiting. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the or what? Like you're going to win the championship or what? Like that, you didn't finish the sentence. You didn't finish the statement. You're going to win a championship or what? You're going to win a championship or you're going to quit basketball? You're going to win a championship, like, or what? Like, it's easy for someone to say, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Or what? Like, if you don't, what happens? Well, nothing. Like, nothing's going to happen. Like, what a bold statement by Draymond. We're going to win the championship or what? Or they're going to break the team up? Like, no, they're not going to do that. So that's one part of it. I always wait for the or what. And then second of all, he should think that. He's Draymond Green, professional basketball player. If I'm Joe Lacob, who says these kind of things all the time, and Draymond Green, my leader, and there's a difference between Steph Curry and Draymond Green, but Draymond Green is an emotional leader of this basketball team. If Draymond Green went on to the TNT set and said, hey, this Jimmy Butler thing is really cool. It was a great trade. I really like it, but we're still not winning a championship. Like, that's when Joe Lacob would text him and go, what is wrong with you? What are you, a moron? I mean, a lot of people in the NBA, after he said the weekend was a 0 out of 10, and it was a weekend designed by his good friend Steph Curry, a lot of people in the NBA probably did text him that. But again, let's flip it to the other side. Draymond Green comes onto that set, and remember, he's a hot take. Draymond's a hot take machine. I was doing like a James Brown hot tub. Hot tub's hot, just because I saw SNL over the weekend. And they had... what was it? James Brown. Eddie Murphy was so skinny in those skits, by the way. But anyway, I digress. So if Draymond Green comes out and says, we don't have a chance to win a championship, because Draymond Green's a hot take artist. Remember, we're already starting to see that 0 out of 10 weekend. We're going to win the championship. NBA basketball is boring. It's like, whoa, Draymond Green is wild and crazy. You know, he's just preparing for his post-NBA career. And the more he says that, the more he's going to overtake. I can't decide. Is he going to overtake Charles or Kendrick Perkins? He's probably more Perkins than Charles, because everybody is sitting there going, well, Draymond Green's going to be the next Charles Barkley. I think Draymond Green's going to be the next Kendrick Perkins. So let's not make him Charles Barkley. He's Kendrick Perkins. Charles Barkley, even though, and I got on him last week about no more about San Francisco, no more hating, no more all this kind of stuff. And whether it was TNT, the NBA, we talked about this on Monday. they made him behave and it was great. He made a donation and everything else. Charles Barkley, like it or not, and I don't agree with everything he says, is one of the greatest media personalities of all time. Whether you like him or not, you listen to what he has to say, whether he watches basketball or not, whether he's talking about politics, whatever the case may be. And this is just not some hot take thing. Charles Barkley is one of the greatest media personalities of all time. I mean, it's a fact. Draymond Green is nowhere close to that, and he's trying to, but he's doing it through the hot take machines. Charles Barkley believes his stuff. Charles Barkley says crazy-ass stuff, and he believes 90% of it, probably 100% of it, to be honest. And Draymond Green just is off to the start of, I'm just going to say things for the effect. The weekend was not a 0 out of 10. The NBA product, which this is where he contradicted himself. He said he wanted to go back to the old way the NBA All-Star game was, and this year was a 0 out of 10, but he hates the current NBA product. Like I said yesterday, when you lie, you have to remember your lies, and that sucks. Then you're like, oh, what did I say? What did I say? If you just tell the truth all the time, you don't really have to worry about, what lie you said or what stupid thing you said, because you got to continue to stay on that track of stupid thing you said and you forget. So you said the weekend was a 0 out of 10 designed by your friend Steph Curry, and you wanted to go back to the old way of basketball. But remember, 48 hours prior, you said that NBA basketball sucked. But you wanted the NBA All-Star game to go back to that product you said sucked 48 hours before. So to be honest with you, he's more Kendrick Perkins than he is Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley is one of the greatest media personalities of our lifetime, maybe of all time, and especially of the modern era of media. And you don't have to agree with what he is. And Daniel's saying he's a poor man's Charles. I don't know what he is. I don't. But the thing he's off to, and this isn't meant to be a diatribe about Dre. It's just meant to say that from what I saw from the weekend, he's much more Kendrick Perkins than he is Charles Barkley, and he's not likable. And I don't know what it is about Charles. Charles can be saying things that you completely disagree with when it comes to the San Francisco thing. It pisses me off and everything else, but I'm not mad at him about it. I was like, if he was going to be the way he was going to be, I said this before the All-Star game, then leave him home. You don't need the network and its most popular personality, most visible personality ripping the city that the game is being played in. That's Draymond's job, apparently. So anyway, I digress again. But my point is in this whole thing is, do you agree with Draymond? And we're at the point on the chalkboard where it says GS Contenders, Golden State Contenders. Are you of the opinion that because Jimmy Butler III is with the Warriors that they're a contender? And so I started thinking to myself this. If they're in the play-in, I don't care. They're not a championship contender. I know that Jimmy Butler brought Miami from a play-in position to the NBA Finals. I totally understand that. But if you go back and you look at the Eastern Conference that year, just wasn't very good. So Denver, I think, is a contender. Oklahoma City is a contender. Memphis, I can buy as a contender. I don't know about Houston. I don't know if Dallas is going to get Anthony Davis back in time for everybody who said, well, Dallas is going to be just as good or better. Well, let's see. Anthony Davis isn't there. I don't know what kind of continuity the Lakers are going to have. Luka and LeBron are both very ball dominant in a different way than when Durant joined the Warriors and everybody said, there's only one ball. The Warriors can't possibly be successful. I was like, you can see the way that it could work because those guys weren't all ball dominants. Steph was like, it's cool. Do what you want, KD. KD's like, no, it's cool, Steph. Do what you need to do. Draymond's like, don't worry about it. I can, play defense and move the ball. And Clay's like, look, I'm only going to need like a third of a second to get rid of the shot. It's not like I'm ball dominant. I'm shot dominant, but it all worked out. And they all shot like 17 shots a game. It was unbelievable. Remember that one year it was like all of them shot like 17 times a game. So you knew it was going to work out. So I don't know what the Lakers are going to be. Luke off the top of my head, I think LeBron might be gone next year. But I think that, for now, I don't know what the Lakers are going to be. I don't know if they have enough time to have the kind of continuity. So it's a roundabout way of saying, well, I think there are some really good regular season teams in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City, great regular season team. I don't know what they're going to be in the playoffs. Same with Memphis, same with Houston. I know that Denver can be a championship caliber team. I don't know that Denver has enough depth. I mean, Jokic is Jokic. Murray can be absolutely on fire at times. After that, who's their third best player? Russell Westbrook, Michael Porter, Gordon. They've got after their top two and really their top one, then there's a gap. And Murray can be really good and on fire at times. But then after that, it's kind of like really good players. Aaron Gordon fits. Michael Porter's off and on. Russell Westbrook's older. He's not obviously what he was. He can contribute sometimes. I don't know that Denver has enough depth. So there's not a hammer team or 2 or 3 where you would say, man, these teams can be dominant. There's not even like when the Warriors were dominant and you had like Houston breathing down their neck or something like that. I don't know that there's that team. And I've been pretty consistent in saying this. And this is where I don't know that I'll go 100% that we're winning a championship. Remember, Draymond Green is not in the business of if this and if that and if this, we might be able to contend. He's hot take artist Draymond Green now. TNT, Kendrick Perkins, hot take guy. So it's either we're not going to win and we suck and the league sucks, and this was a 0 out of 10 this weekend, not a 3, not a 5. That's too middle of the road for Draymond Green, hot take artist. It's a 0. Everything sucks. And the NBA sucks. And this weekend sucked. Yeah. And we're winning a championship. I'm guaranteeing it. So there's no like middle of the road for Draymond Green, hot take artist, TNT employee. It's 0 out of 10 weekend. NBA sucks, even though I want to go back to the NBA, but it sucks, and this weekend sucked. And by the way, we're winning the championship. There's no, like, it's got to be here or here. That's it. There's no here. It's here. So, but that's A, that's how he should feel. And B, even though I don't know that he was necessarily thinking in his head about the Western Conference, I think he was just being hot take Draymond. I did start to think to myself, okay, let's just play with the premise that Draymond's not wrong. If they get the play in, like I said, I think they're too old to go very far. And it's a one-game thing, so you just don't know. All of a sudden, you run into, I don't know, let's say San Antonio gets in there, and we just saw Victor Wembanyama, and he gets hot. Let's say that you play the Suns, and Kevin Durant scores 50, and he's unstoppable. Yeah, that's a problem. On and on and on. Let's say you play the Lakers, and it's Luka and LeBron, and you have no answer. Like any of those teams that are bouncing around that area, you could win, I guess, in a game. You could absolutely lose. So if they're going to the play-in, and we've seen it over the last few years, so this is not just pulling it out of my you know what, I still think that you look at this and you say, okay, play-in's going to be tough. But let's look at the rest of the teams in the Western Conference they can play. Let's just say they get to the 6th seed. You know, the 3 seed could be Houston. It could be Memphis. After that, if you were to get by that again, Houston, Memphis, Denver could be in that mix. And then you get to the conference finals and you could be looking at OKC. And what I consistently say about that is you've got a bunch of young teams who haven't won it. And if you punch them in the face in game 1, how's Oklahoma City going to respond? How's Memphis going to respond? How's Houston, a young team, going to respond? Now, Denver's going to be like, it's cool. It's a long series. We're fine. But are those teams going to panic? And then in game 2, you know, it's kind of like if you go back to the beginning and they didn't win this series, but then they beat Denver and then it kind of snowballed and then they won championships. But if you go back to the San Antonio series and they didn't win the series, but they had many opportunities to win the series and they won a game in San Antonio the first time in forever. Remember those days? Go back to that as Warriors fans. Remember the playoff series? They won in San Antonio, and that was, you know, the Tim Duncan, and that was this. Are those young teams going to be able to do that? Or if the Warriors come into an OKC, a Memphis, a Houston, and they win game 1, and then that young team falls behind at home in game 2 by 8 or 10, are they going, Because we know this. In every sport, regular season, playoffs, totally different. You know, Billy Bean, with, you know, the way that they had the A's, and the numbers and the analytics, 162-game season is far different. Wait a minute, the analytics aren't working. Yeah, because it's a short playoff series, and they don't always work. The analytics work over 162. The analytics may work over 82 of an NBA season, but they don't a lot of times work in the playoffs. So in the NBA, you can have a great regular season and not be a great playoff team, and teams go, how did you get beat? Well, because that's not how you were built. You weren't built as a playoff team. You don't have the experience of a playoff team. So while we can look at what Draymond say or listen to what Draymond say or watch what Draymond says and say, that's insane. And he's being a hot take artist and he's saying they're going to win the championship. While I don't think that is true, would it shock me if they didn't play the play-in, and let's say they're the 6, that they beat Houston in a 6-3? Not shocking. That Memphis, then they would get them in the next round. Could they beat Memphis, a really young team, in the semis? They could. I don't know that they'd be favored, but they could. It's not out of the realm of possibility. They're the veteran team. And then they play the Western Conference Finals, and Oklahoma City's a really young team. Now, after having won a couple of series, maybe Oklahoma City. And this is why, as they get older, these teams get some experience, and that's what scares you. But right now, they're pretty inexperienced, these teams. And so now you get Oklahoma City with this group, never been to the Western Conference Finals. This young group, Shai Gilgeous is awesome. I really like, what Jalen Williams is an all-star. There's no doubt about it. That's a good team. But again, because of the youth, if you punch them in the face, you won at Oklahoma City, are they starting to go, oh man, what do we do? How do we handle these guys? It's Jimmy Butler, it's Draymond Green, it's Steph Curry. They've been there so many times. Would I say percentage-wise, because everybody loves to do this, what are the odds the Warriors do that? Probably 25%, maybe 20%. But it's not crazy as it would seem that you're looking at it going, wait, this is like a 10th or 11th place team. Are you, yeah? What? So it sounds crazy. It probably is crazy. There's probably a 20% chance it happens, but you're saying there's a chance. All right, give me your thoughts. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Got it. All right. We're all set. SF Niners 808. It is great to see you. Aloha, my friend. You know what? I'll announce this. I don't know the exact dates, but at some point in March, I will be going to the islands. Got to go visit some family. And I will be at some point doing the show off a laptop and kind of messing around a little bit because that's going to be my system. And I've got it all figured out, I think. But we're going to be doing it from the islands. And we're not going to be missing a day. But the thing is what time is it back there, SF Niners 808? Is it 2 hours or 3 hours? I always forget because based on daylight saving times and they don't move. So right now, it's 9:47 Pacific time. Is it 7:47, 6:47? What time is it there? Because I got to figure out what time I got to get up and do this thing. It's crazy. Oh, look at you. Hi, Skills. Do it on 3/23. It'll be my 45th birthday present. Wow. Is not that I'm big into signs and not that because we haven't done many random tangents today at all. I was born in fact, my birthday is coming up. I don't like to count them anymore. What's today? The 18th or the 19th? What is today? I have no idea what today is. Today's the 19th. My birthday is the 21st. Is the 23rd? Are you still a Pisces on that day or no? Not that I'm a big sign person. In fact, I'm not into that stuff at all. But I'm just wondering. Oh, you got to go to Hawaii. I mean, it's just don't go to Waikiki. Don't go to Oahu because that's way too Americanized. But you got to go. You got to go. Yeah, today's the 19th. I should really know. No, I will not do the podcast with the lay on. Although I will say this, and it's cool when my mom does it. She's lived over forever. And every time, and she doesn't pick us up in the airport because she lives really close to the airport. So it's just like right, light, left, mile, her house. So, it's probably 10 minutes. But when you get to her house, she puts like a fresh flower lei on you. And that's kind of a touristy thing to do. But it's really cool and smells great and everything. So for her, it's like, no, it's really cool. But for a lot of people, it's like, all right. Let's see. Was it gone for a while on vacation? No, that's fine. I just want to know what time it is over there without having to look it up. No, I did not, JazzFed. I did not do it. Walking us through the Dubs in the playoffs. All I was saying was originally when you hear and see, which I played, Draymond Green saying, we're going to win a championship. We're going to win a championship. And I thought to myself, that's stupid. And he's being hot take Draymond. And he said the weekend was a 0 out of 10. And he said the NBA sucks. And so there's nothing that comes out of TNT, hot Draymond take's mouth that is in the middle. He didn't say we might win a championship. We could win a championship if this goes right. He didn't say the weekend was a 4 out of 10, or at least they tried. He said it was a 0. He didn't say that the NBA product right now was okay or there were some good things about it. He said it sucked. It was just everything's got to be extreme one way or the other. And so all I was doing was I'm not being a Homer guy. I'm not doing any of that. All I thought was, okay, that sounds crazy. Probably not going to happen. But what percentage would I put on Draymond being right? And again, I think he's being a hot take guy. I do think he believes it because he's a professional athlete on a team. And if you don't believe you're going to win a championship, then what are you doing here? Well, that's but it's Draymond. And I do believe he does think that. But for him to go out and just say it, and then it was funny because he told Steph, he's like, oh, by the way, I just put pressure on you, said we were going to win a championship, because really it's on Steph's shoulders anyway. Steph's like, thanks, Draymond. but it doesn't matter. Everybody, you know what's funny? I think this is true. This is one way against the Warriors. It doesn't matter that let's say that they can somehow get up to 6. I don't think they can, but let's just say, again, from the premise of they can, if they could get to 6 and they play a young Houston team, then they play a young Memphis team, then they play and I am sounding very Bob Fitzgerald in this, then they play a young Oklahoma City team, then you could see where the dominoes could kind of fall. Now, having said that, if they play, let's go to the other side of it. So we went, that's crazy, Draymond, to, I could kind of see it, Draymond, to let's go back the other way to you're crazy, Draymond, which is if they play the Lakers who have knocked them out, they have veteran leadership. Luka just went to the finals. They're not going to be intimidated. They got LeBron. They're not going to be intimidated of Draymond and Jimmy and Steph walking in. They're not intimidated. Denver's won championships. I don't think they win a series against Denver. They're not intimidated. They're walking in going, hello, this is largely the team that won a championship a couple of years ago. We're not intimidated by these guys. So a lot of it is luck of the draw. I mentioned 3 young teams. I mentioned Houston, Memphis, Oklahoma City, who, if they got behind in a series, if they got behind in a game, might go, oh my God, these are guys who have won a championship. What do we do? Versus the Lakers going, and what? I'm beating these guys. And Denver going, I got a ring. So a lot of it would be my general premise would be young team gets behind in the series, starts to panic, gets intimidated by the Warriors win the series. Now, could they do that 3 series in a row? That's probably too much to ask. But I do believe that Draymond does believe that, because why wouldn't he? And I guess what I'm saying is that so many people made a big deal of that quote, and I'm thinking, he's a professional athlete who's got multiple rings. That's really what he's playing for, besides the money, of course. But he does believe that. All right, it's 7:47. So you are 2 hours back. So I'll be doing shows that in March that start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'll go like 6 to 8, 6 to 9, something like that. That's a good call, Mike. That is a really good call. Pool bar podcast. Pool bar show. That would be cool. Can I tell you guys since I haven't done this much? Mike Bob Fitzgerald. I got to tell you a great story. And this just stays between you and I, right? Because I don't work for KMBR anymore. And you know what I should do? Tomorrow I'll find a picture because I have this thing archived. But I'm going to tell you a little story. And I don't know that Greg knows this story. Very few people know this story. I should really save this for Lund loyalists and just do a little 5-minute video on this. But I'm going to be nice today. I'm in a great mood. And I'm going to go through. There's a lot of good stuff on the text line right now, on the chat line. I'm going to go back to that. But then there's a lot of you talking amongst yourself too. That's fine. So I got a great story for you. It has to do with Hawaii. So when the pandemic first starts, of course, we can't go into the studio. When we do live show, we do shows from home. The radio station gives us, the radio station gives us this gear. During the pandemic, we all got to stay home, and we're all doing these shows at home and all this kind of stuff. And it's cool. We do it for like a year. And then I keep the gear, and like on Fridays when we moved into this house, and I'm in a studio that's adjacent to our house and all this kind of stuff. We had this thing built and really cool. And because I thought, well, we're going to be doing a lot of shows from home, blah, blah, blah. So then they finally make us come back to the studio. I don't even remember how long this was. Maybe a year. It was over a year. I think it was a year and some time. But here's how I know. So we went to Hawaii I'm trying to think of this year. It was 2021. It was 2021 because the Niners lost to the Rams in the NFC Championship game after beating Dallas when Dak slid and had no more time left. What year is that? Dak slid, had no more time left. I think that's 21, if I'm not mistaken. 21. Yeah, that was 21 because 22 is Brock gets hurt. 23 is Super Bowl. 24 is a disaster year. 21. So the year that they played the Rams in the NFC Championship game and Jaquiski Tartt drops the interception. They should have went to the Super Bowl, should have beat the Bengals, and we shouldn't have to talk about how Kyle can't win a big game. All right, that's the backdrop of this whole thing. And keep me on track here, keep my ADD at bay, because this is all about Hawaii. So we go that year to Hawaii to visit my mom, and we rent a condo. And we have George's college age, and we have we have a boy and a girl, my stepchildren, and we go to Hawaii. Everybody for Christmas, everybody gets sick. Now, I don't think I got sick. I don't think my wife got very sick, but the kids got just hammered sick, just awful. So much so that it was like we couldn't do anything. Like we couldn't do anything. Like kids sick. We're ordering food in. We're in Hawaii on a golf course. Beautiful weather. Everything's great. It's December, but the kids are just sick. George has locked himself in a room. I think he's got strep throat. The kids caught it. Disaster, right? Disaster. And at that point, we are starting to go back into the studio. So then we get back from the vacation. That wasn't really a vacation because everybody was sick in Hawaii. And I get back, and it probably was, if you ask all the stories, it will be very long. Yeah, it will be. So we get back from Hawaii, a disaster trip. It was awful. We spent a bunch of money. We don't feel refreshed at all because everybody was sick. And so we get back. And within a couple of days, they say, yeah, you got to go back home. We're going to close down the studios again. I don't remember dates. It was early January. We're going to close everything down, and we're going to, everybody's got to do the show from home. Well, that was the week of the Cowboys and Niners divisional game. Again, K'Wan Williams, the interception. Debo comes into the game, scores a touchdown, says, I'm going to score. Dak, the Cowboys are driving. Dak slides, runs out of time. Niners move on and take on LA, in which they lost the next week, right? So that's the premise of it. So I call my wife. I'm walking. I was taking Bart that day, and I was walking from the studio. And I call her and I go, I got this crazy idea. And it was like a Monday or Tuesday. It was probably a Monday after the show because they told us they were shutting down the studios and we all had to do it from home. So on Monday night, I called my wife and I go, I know this is crazy, but they just told us that we're out of here on the studio. Let's go back to Hawaii because her ex-husband had the kids for like a week. And I said, we're going to be doing the show from here anyway. Why don't I just take the gear and we go across to Hawaii and we'll do the show from there and no one will know. And she's like, all right, let's do it. So it's just us. We get a condo in, unfortunately, Lahaina, which is no more. And we get a condo probably a block from the main street there in Lahaina. And it was amazing. And here's the reason I bring it up. Because if you're new and you just got in here, like you're on X, you're on Instagram, you're like, who is this guy? And why is he telling Hawaii stories? This will make sense. So we go over there. And the reason why is because I was talking about this because I said we're going to do the show and the podcast next month from Hawaii. That's why we talked about it. So we go over to Maui because my wife and I are like, we're doing this. And the great thing about it was, like, if I take my gear and I have a decent internet signal, we're good. Our show's good. We're fine. And if I'm 5 minutes late, you guys know, I'll be there. But it's not that the show isn't important. It's very important. But the radio show, you got to be there if the line doesn't work. And it's a totally different line. It's not an internet line. You actually have to connect. You have to plug into one of those boxes, like an internet box. And it can't be like through a hotel and all these different things. It's got to be an actual box in your condo. So I call over there. I already told my wife we're going. So it's like a Tuesday. I call over to this condo that we rented. And I said, do you guys have like a internet box in the room that I can plug this cord into? And I'm explaining that it's a radio. I get lucky as hell. It's a guy running this condo. There's probably 50 of them in there. He's from Oakland. He knows the show and says, yeah, I got you covered. I know exactly what you need. And he actually finagled it and fixed it so that he knew exactly what I needed to plug into. And he put it into that condo. But here's what's scary. I don't tell anybody I'm leaving. And probably 2 people know this. I don't tell anybody I'm leaving. We leave on a red eye. I don't know. It's like a Monday night. And then I get there. It's not a red eye. It was late at night though. We get into our condo finally at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And if this plug-in doesn't work and I don't get the radio station, so I know right away. So you plug in, you dial up the radio station. It's called the hard line. And I've got to be able to hear the radio station back or I'm screwed because it's not like I can jump on a plane and go back. And I've told no one that I'm leaving. So Tuesday through Friday shows are all going to be in Hawaii from this condo at like 6 start. And when we started at 10 in the morning, so it was like 8 in the morning. And I would go 8 to noon. And my wife would work all morning from her side of the condo. And then we'd go out. We'd have like half a day every single day because we wanted to make up for the bad trip over Christmas where all the kids were sick. So I plug into this thing. It's like 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, please work, please work, please work. Because if it doesn't, I got to call the radio station and go, hey, I know that you guys said we need to do these shows from home and everything, but I kind of took advantage and I'm in Hawaii and it's not working because I was scared the whole time I'm flying over there. It's all I could think of is it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So I plug in, it works. I can get the radio station. I'm talking back, all this kind of stuff. It works. And then in the morning, and sometimes it doesn't hold. It just cuts off, especially if you're in a hotel or something with lots of phone lines. but it works. It works. And so I plug in, and in the morning we do the show. I don't say anything. I don't tell Greg. I don't tell anybody at the radio station. I don't tell anybody. I'm sitting in a condo in Maui doing the show Tuesday through Friday because we just on a whim did it. Now, that's not the funny part. So we do the show. We do the thing. We get 8 to noon, have a great time. Nobody knows I'm over in Maui, right there in Lahaina, and, pair of shorts, hanging out. So then the Niners, I think they played that game on Saturday. And here's the problem. Same thing. I got this broadcast unit, but I've got to be able to see the game, and I've got to be able to do this thing. So then there was a guy, and not Brass Monkey, it was something Monkey. You know the place. It was in Lahaina. It got ruined by the fires. Yeah, something Monkey. Oh, somebody's got to know this place. Anyway, so I walk around Lahaina, and I again explain to them, I need, I've got this broadcast unit. I really want to be outside, but I need big TVs. Where could I go to, so I could actually watch the game, but you could let me broadcast, and, and I got a full phone line. Guy who owns the something Monkey in Maui at the time. Was it the Drunken Monkey? Vernon, if you came through, this would be 2 times in a row that you came through. Something Monkey. And I used to get text messages from him. I signed up to their thing. Anyway, so I get there, and the guy's a Niner fan from the Bay Area, knows KNBR, knows the show, says, I'll set you up. I get it. I know what kind of line you need. No problem. So here I am. And I'm in a Niners bar with all these people around me, and I'm laughing because no one knows. Everyone, like I said, we're doing the pregame, like we always do, the post game, but everybody had to stay home. So where we normally would be, and now this game was in Dallas, where we normally would be, we'd be somewhere out on the road, but we all had to stay home. So I'm staring at the Pacific Ocean. I'm doing the half and post game from a bar in Maui. Nobody knows that I'm doing that because I'm in a quiet corner. I'm watching this thing. And I've got video and pictures of me doing this. And it was so funny. It might be the Drunken Monkey, but I don't think it's the Drunken Monkey. It's something Monkey. I'm going to have to go back and look at it. But it might be. You guys might be right. But it's Dirty Monkey. Vernon, I think maybe it's the Dirty Monkey. I think that's right. I think you're right. So anyway, it's all these Niner fans, and they're cheering, and I'm trying to get away from the cheering because then people are going to be like, where are you at? And I think I was doing with Krugstead. Anyway, there's 3 of us, and nobody knew I was in Maui. So I'm taking all these pictures and video. And to my left is the Pacific Ocean. And right in front of me are these giant TV screens of, the Niners and the Cowboys game. And nobody knew I went to Maui. So Tuesday to Friday, I did the show. Nobody knew. And then on Saturday, I think it was a Saturday playoff game, I did the Niners and the Cowboys and actually got paid to look at the Pacific Ocean, do the pre, the half, and the post. And actually, because of course, I'm having cocktails the whole time, I actually took my equipment for the post game because they did network post game, and I said, I'm going to go back to the condo. Did the post game from the condo, and then we went out to dinner, and then we flew back. I was on a Saturday, so I think we flew, and I had to be, we wanted to be back. So I think I left Sunday night or something like that. Anyway, week in Maui, nobody knew. Now you know. Doing pre, half, and post from a bar in Maui. I think it was the Dirty Monkey, not the Funky Monkey. I think it was the Dirty Monkey, and it is now gone, of course. But anyway, yeah, nobody knew. Nobody knew I was doing the show that week from there. Nobody knew I was doing the pre, half, and post from there. I didn't tell anybody until weeks later. I told Papa, and I said, you know how you were in Dallas working your butt off and all that kind of stuff? I go, I was in Maui looking at the Pacific Ocean doing the pre, half, and post. He's like, no, you weren't. Yes, I was. And I pulled my phone up, and I went, see? And I would show you, but I don't think I have it. I think I have it on a cloud somewhere or something. But it's hilarious because I'm holding up a drink, and there's people in Bosa jerseys and all sorts of stuff around me, and we're all like, "Hey!" And they're like, "Wait a minute, you're from KNBR? What are you doing here?" They could not comprehend the fact that, wait a minute, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be doing the pregame or the postgame or the half game? Not the Spanking Monkey, not the Anyway, it's the Dirty Monkey. Bree Surf, you're right. It is the Dirty Monkey, and the guy who owns it is from the Bay Area. Because I walked in there, and he was like, yeah, I know who you are. And it was so wild because the guy, I got so lucky, and I think it was the gods because all the kids were sick from Christmas, and we just took off on a whim to Maui for the week and did the shows and everything because they locked us out of the studios. And I think it was just the gods who said, look, you went through hell over Christmas, because the tech guy was from Oakland and knew the show and knew what I needed. The guy from the Dirty Monkey, it's the Dirty Monkey. No, not the Brass Monkey. Brass Monkey. No, it wasn't that. The guy from the Dirty Monkey was like, oh, yeah. Niners fan, Niners bar, know who you are. We'll set you up. It was just like, this is cool. This is cool. And I should have taken more. That's the other thing, too. I should have taken more advantage during the pandemic. Like, we were here the whole time. I'm doing shows. Should have been, like, anywhere but here. Lots of people did that. They just took their equipment on the road. And like, cool. But, yeah, true story. Nobody knew. I told Greg. I don't think I told anybody else. The Niners probably wouldn't have been that happy. Wait a minute. You're doing what? You're working from where? And I was like, well, you closed the studios. What am I supposed to do? No, not Spanky. No. Anyway. All right. Do we have anything else today? Kevin Durant on why he didn't want to come here. Draymond Green saying they're going to win a championship. The Vlad story. If you don't understand, still go back. I'm not going to go through Vlad again. It's complicated. It's about money. And we're just sports fans. We don't want to talk about money all the time. Money. I get it. There's a business side of this. But people start to go, their eyes start to roll back in their head. Durant non-trade, Dre title talk, Golden State contenders. Do you buy it? Because I just, in my head, I didn't want to be a hater. And I'm like, is there any truth to that? Or is he just being a hot take guy? I could see it if they got the right draw. We didn't do NFL free agent class. Let's hold that for tomorrow. Because that's probably a half hour at least, because I want to do it right. I'll just give you a little bit of a tease, but let's hold that for tomorrow. I'm sorry if you're waiting for it. I do. I don't want to make you angry with me or anything, but let me show you what I was going to do, and then we'll do this tomorrow. So they have the top 100. What are they asking for? Block that. The top 101 free agents of 2025 from T. Higgins to Cy Daniel Jones. So let me just do one thing here. Let me just show you one thing. I'm going to go through all these guys, and I'm going to do it really, really fast. I'm not going to do it today, and don't get me into this. But, they got all these guys here, and I'm going to tell you, like, there's Ward. He's not going to come back, obviously. But Bond, who was a free agent last year, they did do a one-year deal. We're going to do both the Niners tomorrow and just around the league and be good fits. But there's Sam Darnold sitting there at 9. He made $10 million last year, and some people are talking about Sam Darnold as like $150 million quarterback. Like I would, if I'm the Raiders, if for some reason, I don't understand how the Matthew Stafford talk to the Giants doesn't make any sense at this point of his career. They're not going to win. Why would he want to go back? Like, he was in Detroit for years, and then he got a taste of the good life in LA, not just because it's LA versus Detroit, but because he won. You think he wants to go back to New York and not win? Like, I don't understand that. But anyway, Darnold's an interesting one to me. Had a great year. 14-3, all this kind of stuff. Didn't finish well, and now everybody who thought, well, Minnesota's going to keep him, now Minnesota's going to go J.J. McCarthy, and who knows where Darnold's going to go. The Rams, if they lose Stafford, which I would love that. The Raiders have been talked about with Sam Darnold. So anyway, we'll do a whole thing on that tomorrow, because not only do I want to talk about some good fits and some interesting things there, but the Niners and where some of the names that are on their list, it really does, and I don't mean to be humorous in this way, but it really does line up for them well in that the interior defensive line and edges. As I told you before, Daniel Jeremiah says he has 24 starter grades on defensive linemen in this draft. Last year there were 12, and the Niners desperately need defensive line help. So I think it really lines up well for them in that regard. And I think free agency lines up for them in what they need in the interior of their offensive line if they can afford everything, which I think they can. So let's use that as a teaser for tomorrow. I don't want to go deep into it, because when I say that it's going to take a half hour, we're an hour 53 into the show. When I say that I think that an NFL free agency segment where it says NFL FA class there at the bottom of the chalkboard, when I say that that's going to take a half hour, it probably means it's going to take an hour, right? Because I can't clear my throat in 5 minutes. So I don't think so. Are you really hearing that, Steve? Are people saying that? Darnold to the Cowboys? I don't think so. Dak's a deal. And again, I hate making everything about money, because, like, oh my gosh, that's fun to talk about. Let's talk about Darnold to the Cowboys. And then we go, wah, wah, wah. Dak Prescott's in like the second year of his deal. The cap number would be, it's one thing to eat Russell Wilson's $50 million, and the Jets are going to eat Aaron Rodgers $50 million. But somebody asked me, because I said, look, teams will eat about any amount of money. And somebody hit me up on the chat line and said, well, why is Deshaun Watson still the quarterback of the Browns? And I looked at his number. His number this year, if Cleveland were to let him go, $100 million. They'd have to eat $100 million. Now, I never thought a team would eat 50, let alone 100. So they're not going to eat 100. And it's the same thing. They're not Dak Prescott's not going anywhere because they'd have to eat at least that. And I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to. I'm too lazy. Center from Atlanta is Drew Dahlman. That's the guy I've been pounding the table. I don't know if I'd say the number one guy I want is Drew Dahlman, but I've been pounding the table for Drew Dahlman from Stanford, and he's with Atlanta. And it's the whole thing is, as we talk about this whole thing, connections. I tell you about that. So, you look at DJ Reed, you look at Sherwood, the linebacker of the Jets, you start looking at, and those will be some of the names we'll go over tomorrow because you got to look at connections. Who played for who? Who's from a certain, Dahlman's from Stanford. His dad played for the Niners. Ding, 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 ding. Sherwood played for Saleh. He's 25. DJ Reed, corner, drafted by the Niners. They know him, played for Robert Saleh. So it doesn't mean these guys are going to come here. And sometimes you will just get a total random guy. Like, what was the connection of Javon Hargrave? Did someone know him? Was it a D-line coach? Was there a connection? Did he play with somebody? Usually, like, you'll get those, and it's just like, look, they offered him the most money, and Hargrave, because they were desperate after the Buckner to Kinlaw to this sucks, that was stupid. Now we got to get a guy and overpay him on day one, which a lot of times that's what it just blows up in your face like that. So the connection was, you're paying me the most guaranteed money on day one of free agency. Yes. But a lot of times when you're trying to kind of add 2 and 2 and say, okay, where are the fits? The fits are a lot of times when there's a connection with somebody. So that's usually how it does it. But yeah, Dahlman is really high on my list. See, now you're trying to sucker me into doing it because I will. Darnold to the Giants. The reason why I don't think that is because even though it's not the Jets, I don't see Darnold saying to himself, yeah, can't wait to go back to New York. And I could be wrong, but I don't see New York. That's a problem. And that Stafford thing boggles my mind. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it's just high profile. I don't know if he's trying to be do media when he's done. I don't know anything about Matthew Stafford other than, the football player and what we see off the field. Is he and his wife, who's very outspoken, are they trying to get to New York so they can be high profile? I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe that's Stafford's next move. Yep, I'm going to New York. Don't care if I win. But logic would tell you, as far as Stafford is concerned, and I love this because it's Rams, and if they lose Stafford, they're worse. If it's Aaron Rodgers to the Rams instead of Stafford, Rams are worse. If it's Sam Darnold to the Rams instead of Stafford, they're worse. So that's good. Whatever solution they think they have at quarterback, it's not as good as Matthew Stafford, no matter his age. But I would think logically, not knowing Matthew Stafford beyond what most people do, a couple of interviews, this, that, and the other, and seeing what he said after the Detroit loss, where he said, yeah, I'm going to play again, and he looks good. And he comebacks. I like Matthew Stafford. He's full of piss and vinegar. I like Matthew Stafford. But when I think to myself, okay, let's make logical sense of all these people that are saying he's going to the Giants because there's a connection there. All right, he was in Detroit for years and years and years, got beat up. I'm sure hated losing. And went to Georgia in college, so he obviously won. So all of a sudden it's like lose. Goes to L.A., wins a Super Bowl, gets used to winning. He's in the playoffs just about every single year. There was like 1 year that he wasn't, but he was injured all that year. But anytime he's been healthy, the Rams have been in the playoffs. They've won a Super Bowl, and now it's let's go back to the Giants. The Giants aren't good. And the Giants are in a division with Philly and Washington. That's a really hard division. I like Malik Neighbors. You gave up Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. You don't necessarily have a very good offensive line. Your coach is desperate, probably fighting for his career or his job with the Giants. Maybe not his career, but his job with the Giants, that's for sure. So I'm thinking to myself, why logically would Stafford want to go back there? Now, maybe they're going to give him a big contract extension. That's the catch-all be-all is when you go to yourself and you scratch your head and you go, but doesn't he want to win? He's already got a Super Bowl ring. If the Giants are saying to Matthew Stafford, this is the big revelation. If the Giants are saying to Matthew Stafford, hey, dude, we're so desperate for a quarterback. Daniel Jones didn't work. We haven't had a decent one since Phil Simms, Kerry Collins. I mean, I don't know. It's been a while for the Giants since they had a competent quarterback. We'll give you at 37, we'll give you a 3-year, I don't know, what, $100 million, $120 million extension. I'm listening. I don't want to win that badly. Then he goes to his wife and says, hey, there's worse things in New York. And maybe he does want to build a media career. And maybe he's going, we're going to get hit with 120 and just guarantee it. Hey, Giants, you're desperate for a quarterback. Guarantee it for the next 3 years. Tommy played a long time. Aaron Rodgers played a long time. The last time an old quarterback came to New York, that didn't work out so well, but he's different. So, yeah, give me 3 and 120, and we'll call it good. And the Giants stink, but money. It's all about that. So I just kind of answered my own question because to me, I'd be like, no way. Like, I'm not going to New York. That doesn't make any sense. But then I just remembered my old theory. Money. It's always about money. So maybe. I could be wrong. I just talked myself into that. Maybe. I can see it. Again, we're not going to do free agent class, but let me do a couple other things since we got in the NFL. Debo, what are you talking about in the trade there? I just need to know. Yesterday I did that thing and I said, what are you smoking? And basically people were talking about Max Crosby. I didn't finish that piece because I was being sales guy yesterday, but I will finish the piece. And something we discussed yesterday at length was if I ranked Crosby, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, and Joey Bosa, and the chances they would be across or on the opposite end of Nick Bosa next season. Because it will be this year, but it will be next season. What are the chances of that? So I'll write that piece. I'll finish up a Vlad piece today for you later on, johnlundunleashed.com. I got those 2 things to do. Like I said, I was sales guy yesterday. I was doing sales pieces. Didn't used to have to do that, but now I do. Things got to get monetized. You know how that goes. All right, any NFL stuff before we get out of here today? I will lead tomorrow with NFL free agent class because I know everybody wants to talk about that. Darnold might be a Raider. You might not be wrong in that. I know some people there. No, you wouldn't. See, you're just saying that. You do not want to see Trey Lance back. I don't want to rip on Trey Lance. I'm not even going to talk about it. Whoa. Let's get serious. My daughter is undergoing surgery Friday to remove a cyst. She would appreciate a shout out from you, and so would I. What's your daughter's name? And let's all say a prayer for her, shall we? Skills report. We always like to have a lot of fun. We laugh. We have a lot of fun. But man, I was perusing, and I saw daughter undergoing surgery, and you're my guy. So it's like, whoa. I hope she's okay. Believe me, I've had so many things in my life because I've abused my body so much, and I have this pale skin. Rebuilt bottom lip to cancer. Something out of my shoulder was cancer. I've had a lot of deals, and I hope you're not saying cancer, but even if you are, doctors nowadays, and I'm not just saying this to be nice, doctors nowadays are unbelievable. I mean, they're just unreal, and they don't even think about it. 2023, I caught cancer just in time. And so, I've had a lot of weird stuff and cysts and stuff like that removed. And I hope it's not what I'm saying. I'm not assuming it's cancer or anything like that, but I'm just telling you, I even had this done, I think last summer, actually, some stuff out of my shoulder, just because I've said this story before, and we all got prayers up for you, bro. I've said this before. My mom, when I was growing up in Southern California in the summertime, her idea of being a parent was, well, we're just going to drop you off the beach. Or, hey, we're going to drop you off at the pool. Like, there was no such thing. And this is where I'll defend her because as I've said this before, every school picture from probably kindergarten through 5th grade is me with kind of sunburnish skin, white hair, green streaks from chlorine. That was like all of it. But we didn't know any better. Like, we went to the beach. It was like, or we went to a pool and she'd drop us off. And it was like, I don't think we had baby oil. I'm probably going a little over the top. Like, it wasn't like she gave us baby oil so we could fry, but there wasn't anything. The first time I can remember sunscreen was Coppertone 8. Like 8. Like, that's nothing. Like, if you're not putting on at least like 50 nowadays, people freak out. So I've had all sorts of weird stuff happen. So I hope everything is fine. And let's say a prayer for your daughter. And I'd love to know what her name is. We'll shout her out. Of course we will. She's going to be fine. Doctors are freaking unbelievable these days. I'm telling you. Yeah, I'm just telling you. Yeah, the same thing. I mean, I've had so many things done. My dad, the same thing, like just constant prodding and all that kind of stuff. Just a fact. Let's see. Bucko Sports should not approach the offseason 49ers, splurging on top free agents like Dahlman or Garrett. That hasn't worked for them. Spend on mid contracts like Joey Bosa. And Joey Bosa is not going to be that cheap, and he's always hurt. Myles Garrett plays all the time. I think the Niners would like that more. I don't think Dahlman's going to cost a ton. And I know you're going to bait me into pulling these up, but Dahlman didn't make a ton. Centers don't make an inordinate amount. guards shouldn't. I know guards when it was guards gone wild last offseason. I'm not paying a ton for guards, just like I'm not drafting guards in the first round. I'm not doing it. So I think I've said this before, and I believe this. And if I'm wrong, I'll come back and say it. And I want to consistently say this so that it gets through to everybody. In this offseason, in which they owe Brock a ton of money and will pay Brock a ton of money, and it will get done, and it's not if, it's when. But they moved the $50 million over, which was more than any other team had done. Parag Marathi is great about, okay, we're paying this guy a lot now, but not later, and just playing the chess game that is upfront loaded, back loaded, all these kind of contracts. When we owe this money, the Niners are as good as anybody in the league at it. So can they get a deal done with Brock, which even if it's just, that's the other thing too, is a lot of people are saying this. Brock's deal is going to average like $50 to $60 million. It's not an if, it's going to be like $50 to $60 million. And right out of the gate, maybe it's going to cost 15 or 18 or 20. For example, Brandon Ayuk makes $30 million average annual value. This year, his cap number is 11.2. And at one point, it's going to get ridiculous here in a couple of years. And Brock's is going to be the same way. But for the first couple of years, it's not going to be prohibitive to the fact that they can't sign anybody. Now, having said that, it's Brock going from $1 million to like 15. So it's still a major hit. George Kittle's deal has to be redone. I don't think Dre Greenlaw is going to come back, but there's going to be a couple of guys that are going to get re-signed. They're going to come back. So that's money. And then outside of that, you're thinking to yourself, okay, can they bring back, I don't know, Dre Greenlaw, even though I'd rather have Sherwood from the Jets. Can they do these things and a Myles Garrett? Or when I write the piece today, is it a Myles Garrett? Is it a Joey Bosa? It's not Max Crosby, but we'll just play around. Can they do those deals? I think they can, and I still think they can bring in a Dahlman, and I still think they can bring in a mid-level defensive tackle. They can do these things. They're not day one guys, and maybe Dahlman is a day one guy and gets paid a ton of money because I think there's only like two decent centers in free agency. So maybe they can't get it done because the numbers always shock you. Like there was a dude, Damian Lewis. He was a guard for the Seahawks, and he went to LSU. He's solid. I think he's like a third or fourth rounder. Solid, nothing great. And I don't have the contract off the top of my head, but Carolina just gave him a boatload of money, guaranteed, all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, he's like a middle of the road guard. I'm not paying that for middle of the road guard. Those always come back and bite you. So if those numbers get to be insane like that for a guy like Drew Dahlman or a James Daniel, who's a nice guard, or a Tevin Jenkins, who's a decent guard, or some of these other guys that are out there, if that kind of money starts getting thrown around, then you're right and I'm wrong. I mean, that's just it. You're right and I'm wrong. Because if those numbers, and a lot of times they do, they get totally insane. You're like, why is a guard or a center or something like that getting paid like that? And the Niners aren't in that business. They can't be. But if it stays and the reason I keep bringing up Drew Dahlman, if it's just not a crazy, insane number, because they got a few linemen that they like, the Niners do. Center, I just think needs to be done. If you want to run the ball north and south and you want to put people on their butt, I just saw Jake Brendel on his butt way too much. And all of a sudden it was like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, that kind of stuff. And it was like, come on, man. Like, what do we got? What are we doing? Did I see that your daughter's name is Josie? Is that right? I'm seeing some people say that, but I didn't see your return on it. So I just want to make sure that we say that. Skills, what do we got? Give me it again. Let me look at it. I'm trying to find it right now. But yeah, prayers are absolutely up, man. Absolutely. So this community is so cool. Like all these people right away, man. You pop that up, their skills, and everyone's like, bro, man. And they're just on it, man. They're like, prayers up, bro. Prayers up, everybody. So cool. So cool. Great community that we have. By the way, if you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on X, we love it that you're here for John Lund Unleashed as we're wrapping up a Wednesday, right? Wednesday edition of the show. It is episode 66. Vlad's story, Vlad tweets. That was a thing that if you go to @JohnLundRadio, you can see that thread, and I already explained that. Durant didn't want to come here. I'm not sure I buy his excuse of I just didn't want to pick up and move in the middle of the season. Dre's title talk, he should believe that, but the question is, are the Warriors really contenders? I think they are if they played young teams in the playoffs and stayed out of the play-in game. If it's Denver or teams like that are experienced, the Lakers in the playoffs, I don't know. But if it's OKC, Memphis, Houston, who are inexperienced, I can see that. And we didn't get to NFL free agent class. We teased around it, but that would take a long time. And there I've gone probably 15 minutes just talking NFL. So we'll do that in depth, though, tomorrow. And I'm going to have that piece up about the odds that the Niners get some of the edge guys that have been talked about. So that'll be a better time to talk about it anyway. So What else do we have under there? What else? Let's skills. Prayers are up, bro. There's no doubt. And everybody is so cool. So very cool that people would do that. But the reason I brought up Instagram and X is if you want to come over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe. And there's all sorts of stuff. Danny, good to see you, my friend. Very cool. See, everybody's just cool, man. I just think that's so cool that everybody's like, yeah, we got you, man. We got you. Very cool. All right, Josie. Okay, absolutely great. So prayers up. Keep us up to date on what's going on. Please email me and let me know what's going on there, but let us know as a group what's going on there too, man. We want to make sure everything's going cool. So anyway, we will have a great show tomorrow when we do NFL free agent class. We'll get more into that as well as we get closer. I realize that everybody wants to jump ahead to the draft, but the way the players union have it, we got to get our contracts before the draft. Can't be cutting us, because if it was first, like these guys, you'd be giving money to all these guys and draft them and everything, and guys would be getting cut left and right. It'd be crazy. So anyway, all right, good stuff, man. Good stuff today. All right, good stuff on a Wednesday. If I did not acknowledge you, I apologize. Go to johnlundunleashed.com. Watch the show from the beginning. If you missed anything today, thank you so much for watching on Instagram and X. Make sure that you hit us up, because we will have a couple of new pieces today. Let me just check in with Instagram. We'll have a couple of new pieces up at johnlundunleashed.com. So make sure that you hit us up on that as well. So make sure you do that, and we will be good to go. I just saw a picture of John Lynch and a headline around it. So am I missing anything? Anything big happening right now? Did I see anything like that? No, it's just more about Scott Boras. Okay, let's see here. I hope people listen and watch the show, because they're still saying stuff. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Let's see. So here, this is good news. This is breaking news. The NFL informed teams today that the 2025 salary cap will be roughly $277.5 to $281.5. That's an increase of 22 to 26 million from this year. So for the sake of conversation, $26 million increase. So again, can the Niners afford it? Can the Niners afford it? Can the Niners afford it? They just got a $26 million, all teams, increase on the cap. So let's just put that in perspective. Niners carried over $50 million from the cap of last year, best in the league. They're going to get about a $25 million increase on the cap year to year. There's $75 million. And you know where the cap's going? Continues to go up. Why? Because the NFL is very popular and revenue continues to go up. So what can the Niners do? Backload contracts, because the number is going to go up. So the number's here. The number is going to keep doing this. So I'm going to keep the number small early, and I'm going to backload it later. So we're going to get $25 million added onto the cap, and the Niners already saved 50 from year to year. So they basically just got $75 million. Can they get everything done? I think. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, right? All of a sudden you get $25 million. So very, very nice. Very, very nice. Yeah, David's good with the numbers, man. We'll have David on real soon. But there you go. So a $25 million increase, and they carried $50 million over. That's $75 million. Hello, Drew Dahlman. Let's go. So they can do it. They can definitely do it. All right, let's do it. That's good. Skills report. Steve, everybody contributing today. Skills, prayers out to you and your daughter. Very, very cool. We went through everything today. We got everything done. If you missed anything, go back and watch the show later. Thanks for watching on X. Thanks for watching on Instagram. And we will have new stuff up shortly. If you want to listen to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, we'll hit a button right after the show's over, and we'll get it there as well. Everybody have a tremendous Wednesday. And if you're missing us, just go to johnlundunleashed.com. Have a tremendous Wednesday, and thanks.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!